Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, please turn off your cell phone or use the silent feature. Please note that today's hearing is being live streamed on YouTube as part of a pilot project. Welcome. In accordance with Section 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment for the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustments considers applications for provisions for minor variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw, permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to create new lots. To ensure a fair and timely hearing, I will vet the agenda to determine which applications can be dealt with immediately and which applications require more in-depth review. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda and ask if anyone other than the agent or applicant is present in interest and wishes to address the committee. If there are people in interest, the matter will be held until all non-contested applications have been cleared from the agenda. If your item is held, we strongly advise you to step outside with interested parties to discuss any outstanding issues. If no person is present in interest, the agent or applicant will proceed with their presentation if needed. The committee may ask questions and take the matter into the committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the agent or applicant, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. When addressing the committee, please come forward to the podium, clearly state your name and address, and file a decision request card, which I believe are available at the end of this horseshoe, so that we have correct information for our records. If you have a written submission that you read from, please hand it in to the Secretary-Treasurer when you are done, who is seated on my left-hand side. First, the applicant or agent will make a presentation to the committee of the application as submitted. Then individuals, either in support or opposed to the application, will be allowed to speak. If there are several speakers sharing the same view, please select a spokesperson to present the group's opinion. We want to hear your views. However, covering the same points will not advance your cause. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker at the end of their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant has an opportunity to rebut only the related issues that were raised. The matter will then be taken into the committee for decision. This will mark the end of all discussion. Please remember to confine your comments to the matters outlined in the application. If you do not agree with the committee's decision, you may file an appeal. Almost all appeals will be dealt by a new tribunal called the Toronto Local Appeal Body, or TLAB. For more information on TLAB, please visit the website or the C of A website. Appeal instructions will be included at the bottom of every decision. In order to receive a copy of the committee's decision and to be informed of any appeal proceedings, please include your email in the decision request card I referred to earlier, as TLAB will be sending notification and appeal updates by email. Please leave your completed form once again with Deputy Secretary Treasurer or a member of her staff before leaving today. Decisions will be mailed within 3 business days. Okay, we'll proceed with declaration of interest. Panel members or staff, do you have any declarations? No. Madam Secretary Treasurer, are there any files to be closed in the afternoon time slots?
No, there are.
Okay, are there any requests for deferrals?
Not for the first time slot.
No. Okay, are there any agent applicants at the hearing today who wish to defer the application? Okay, not at this time. Okay, before we proceed, please note that the committee will not be entertaining any extensive revisions to the proposals at the hearing today. In the instance that you do have extensive revisions, we will defer the applications to ensure that the revisions are accurate and that all interested parties are informed of the changes. Okay, now proceed with vetting the agenda for the first time slot in the afternoon hearing. Item number 21, 15 St. Hubert Avenue. Do we have the agent applicant here? Okay, do we have any parties in interest? 15 St. Hubert Avenue. Item number 22, and I believe a sister application, item number 23, 984 and 982 Dovercourt Road. Do we have the agent applicant here? Okay, and you're representing both, I'm assuming? Okay, do we have any interested parties? Okay. So that item will be held. So once again, we strongly advise you to step outside to discuss any and resolve, hopefully, any outstanding issues. Item number 2483 Beaty Avenue. Do we have agent applicant here? Okay, do we have any parties in interest? 83 Beaty Avenue. Item number 111 Warren Road, agent applicant. Okay, any parties in interest? 111 Warren Road. Item number 26505 Ontario Street, agent applicant. Okay, do we have any parties in interest? 505 Ontario Street. Number 27, 156 Palmerston Avenue, agent or applicant. Okay, do we have any parties in interest? Number 28, 572 Palmerston Avenue, agent or applicant. Okay, do we have any parties in interest? 572 Palmerston Avenue. Number 29, 248 Warren Road, agent or applicant. Okay, do we have any parties in interest? 248 Warren Road. Number 30, 294 Roncesvalles Avenue, agent or applicant. Okay, do we have any parties in interest? Yep, so that item will be held, 294 Roncesvalles Avenue. So you're just a owner, okay? So that item is not going to be held. So that's it for the 1:30 p.m. time slot. Everyone here is early today for the next time slot. Okay, so we'll begin with item number 21. It's 15 St. Hubert Avenue. If we can have the agent applicant please come up. And before you start to introduce yourself, I'll just outline what the committee has in front of us. We have a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. We also have a staff report from community planning dated November 26th. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself.
Rebecca Muha, my husband Tom Muha.
Okay, so before you proceed, panel members, would you like to proceed with presentation or questions? Okay, so we'll go directly with questions. Okay. Panel members, do you have any questions?
You've seen the planning report dated November 22nd?
I have, yes.
Okay. Any issues with that?
No, we went back and forth. It's a new planning person, so they hadn't seen the planning person.
But you're fine with the recommendations?
Totally fine, talking about the peak and the garage. Yep,
Okay.
it's perfect.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, no questions? Okay, so we're in committee, discussion or a motion?
Through you, Madam Chair, what's being proposed seems quite similar to something about 3 doors down on the street. So I think that the proposal fits within the context of the neighborhood and meets the 4 tests. So I would be prepared to move approval, including the planning conditions in the November 22nd report.
Okay.
I'll second that.
So a motion to approve, including the planning conditions in the November 22nd report, has been moved by Ms. Oman, second by Ms. Hayes. All in favor? So the application has been approved. Thank you very much. Item number 22 and item number 23 will be held together. Sorry, those items are being held. Never mind. Item number 24, 83 Beaty Avenue. If we can have the agent applicant please come up. The committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. We have correspondence in support from 986 Dovercourt Road, and then we have correspondence in opposition from 978 and 976 Dovercourt. 976 and 980 Dovercourt Road. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself.
Very good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Victor Rosa, representing the owners of this application before you.
Okay, so we'll proceed with questions unless panel members want a presentation.
So my first question is will you be making revisions that I read about?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. The revisions come into play as a reduction to the length of the proposed garage because of issues of accessibility that apparently have been there for number 77 BD for many years. And that's the basis by which he wrote into committee with a letter of approval of this revised proposal.
Okay, so I have them written down, but if you could go through them, please.
I will do.
Revisions.
And before you proceed, I just want to say that I actually read the wrong cover letter. So there's no letters in opposition. There's only correspondence in support from 77 Beaty Avenue. And then we have email correspondence from community planning dated August 22nd. Sorry about that. And then we also have the cover letter from yourself.
Very good.
And if you could go through them as per the notice so that
I will.
okay.
I present to you copies that show the revision to the garage length, even though it's minor.
Okay.
At least you have it before you. Excuse me. I think I need a short one. It didn't count.
How about we
We
use
can
the
share.
projector and we'll share.
I can give you one.
I'm short.
Basically, all you have there indicated is the reduction to the length of the garage, which increases the rear yard setback which is item number 7 of your hearing notice, that originally that was set back 0.91 meters from the lane property line. It's now increased to set back 1.3, so we can eliminate variance number 7, because it will comply to the required 1 meter rear yard setback.
Okay.
The only other item that changes is item 5. Instead of having an area of 78 with this reduction, the area becomes 76.4 meters squared. And the same area would apply to item number 6. So there's a reduction.
I just have a quick question about that
course.
one. So in the material we had,
Yes,
the 76.4 square meters is also equal to 22%, but is that incorrect, or?
that is correct.
That
I
is
did that calculation is just slightly that it rounds off to 22%. That's why we don't change the percentage, but we do change in brackets the area of the garage.
Okay.
So item 5 is now what?
So it's still 22%, but now the meter square, it reads 76.2.
76.4.
Sorry.
76.4.
Same in number 6.
Same as number 6, yes. That's also from 78 and 76.4. So all these pertain to the garage itself. In terms of the addition that's proposed, which is a rebuild of an existing one-story rear addition to the rear of the house, everything remains the same there.
Just, the letter that we had received from Ms. Stoddard and Mr. Johnson seemed to suggest there was going to be a change to variance 3 and 4 as well. Variance number 3 was going to go from 0 meters to 0.061 meters, and variance number 4 was going to go from 0 to 0.051 meters.
That is correct, but I thought it such an insignificant amount of change that we might as well just leave it at 0 instead of change it, but we could, if you wish, to 0.06. So it's a,
So in terms of the fact that that seemed to be part of the resolution of the concerns, would you like to make that change?
it's not part of the resolution because this 0 meter setback came originally from the zoning examiner. Even though from the original plans, nothing changed in terms of that rear yard setback. It was always 0.061. But the examiner chose it to call it 0.
0, okay.
And I live with that. But it's up to you. If you wish me to revise it so that the number is correct, that's fine with me.
It's up to you, panel members, whatever you feel comfortable with.
It's literally a question of millimeters. I don't think it's.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll leave it as is.
My question to you, Mr. Rosa, is on variance number 5. Your lot coverage is, for the ancillary building is 5%, and you need it to be 22%. How do you think that is minor?
Through you, Madam Chair, this is a garage with the application of the new zoning bylaw, which limits the area of the garage. The intent is to occupy this vacant lot at the rear of the properties that are all consistent across the laneway as full-width garages. There would be nothing gained by allowing a substantial setback from the south yard setback. That would just create issues related to people congregating there, events that would not be favorable. So I think a better scenario in terms of the development is to occupy the lot from, it attaches on the north to a party wall, and on the south, the setback is minimal.
How does your depth fits with your next door neighbor? You're moving, you want to have a new depth of 19.12. The next one, which the ER requires, permitting depth is 17 meters. Just two extra meters. Are you moving Is your depth going to be, are you moving the building back some more or what?
I don't understand the
So you're
question.
rebuilding a rare one-story addition, right? Are you
It's
building,
an auxiliary structure as a one-story. Oh, you're talking about the
Rear
addition
addition,
now, not the garage.
No.
Sorry.
yeah, so
Again, now my mind's there. Your question related to the length?
The depth.
Oh, the depth. Well, let's keep in mind that the existing depth of the building accounts for the existing steel fire escape at the rear. That counts in depth because it's attached to the building. The depth, you're replacing the one-story extension that's there now, improperly constructed. So we're creating something that will be constructed to code. And the length, we're not adding further to what was existing to the original building.
okay. And also, it seems based on your survey that your party wall neighbor also has a one-story addition, is that correct? In the rear?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. No more questions. We're in committee, discussion or motion?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'd just like to say that I think that what's being proposed certainly fits within the context of the neighborhood. It looks like the other half also already has a basement walkout, so they're going to be looking a little bit more balanced from that perspective as well at the front. So I think this application is reasonable, meets the test.
Okay. No other discussion? Is that a motion?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
So, through
amended?
you, Madam Chair, I
Amended.
move a motion to approve the application as amended.
Okay, so a motion to approve the amended application has been moved by Ms. Omen. Do we have a seconder? Okay, Mr. Carlson, all in favor? So the amended application has been approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Item number 25, 111 Warren Road. The committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. We have the cover letter from the applicant. We also have a reverse slope driveway preliminary drainage study. We have supporting material, including letters provided to neighbors. We have correspondence outlining comparable approvals from the applicant. We have a staff report from Urban Forestry, and then we have 12 form letters in support from various owners on Warren Road and Dunvegan, and then form letters in support and signed by owners of 34 Dunvegan, and then we have correspondence and concern from the Forest Hill Homeowners Association. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself.
Madam Chair, my name is Wayne Swadron. I'm the authorized agent for the owners who are with me today.
Okay, so we'll also proceed with questions unless panel members want a presentation.
Have you seen the letter from the Forest Hill Homeowners Association?
Yes, we have.
Do you have any concerns with what they're requesting? Or
No, we would stipulate
You would
that
be
condition.
agreeable to that?
Yes.
Can you speak to the third floor balcony, particularly with respect to what impact it might have?
Well, the third floor balcony, a point of egress or for refuge is required by the Ontario Building Code in this condition, so a area is required for access there. The size of this platform is respecting the architecture of the bay that's projecting out from the back of the building at that point. It's the only reason why it is the size that it is. That balcony is not intended to be used for any other reason other than a place of refuge.
On your variance number 2, how many other buildings in the area have a height, will have a height of 11.37 meters?
In the letter that was dated the 21st November, I've identified a number of properties that have appeared before this committee. I can say that numbers 88 Dunvegan, 108 Dunvegan, 120 Warren, 248 Warren, 259 Warren, and 46 Dunvegan all have heights that are greater than this and have been approved by this committee. I will point out as well that the existing house on the property has a height equal to that is being proposed here today.
Your depth, what's there presently? The new detached dwelling will have a depth of 25.91. the city requires 19.0 meters depth. What's there presently?
So I'm going to put on the board a diagram. So this diagram identifies the property boundary together with the footprint of the building that is situated above grade in green, and a dotted line or dashed line that's situated behind the building, which represents the below grade garage. So the depth of the building, as determined through the bylaw calculation, is 25 plus or minus meters, but that extends not to the rear face of the building above grade, but rather to the extent of the below grade garage below. So,
Okay.
yes, significantly less than the variance it identifies.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Any other questions? Okay.
You know what, I'm going to bring it up in discussion, so.
Okay,
could
so
you
we're in committee
speak
now.
No, I was going to ask.
Okay.
Could you just speak to your view on variance number 3? Which is for the 3rd story.
So variance number 3 relates to building length.
No, it's in regards to
The
number
third
of
story.
stories.
More stories.
So the variance speaks to allowable being 2, and you're asking for 3 stories?
Oh, the 3rd floor of this house is located within the roof space. So although it's called a 30-story building, the appearance of the house from the street will be that of 2 stories plus a roof line.
Okay. Is there anything else, Mr. Carlson? Okay, so we're in committee discussion. A motion?
Just before we go into committee, sorry about that. I just want to know if there is a possibility of a privacy issue on that property because of a 3rd story.
Sorry? So you mean in regards to the windows or the deck?
Yeah.
Sorry, if you
It's
can clarify.
putting out a 3rd story. Once it's 3 stories, so I'm just trying to find out if putting a 3rd floor with the windows and whether there will be a privacy issue with regards to the other property on the other side.
So perhaps you can speak to the location of the windows in relation to adjacent neighbors?
So there is a window facing north from the 3rd floor. It, however, is on a stair landing. The height of the window will exceed the height of the landing by quite a bit. There won't be a overview issue there. It's also way through the depth of the building, which means it'll be looking not towards the rear yard of or garden space of the neighboring house. It'll be looking directly towards the roof of the neighboring house. And similarly, there is a very, very small window on the south side, midway through the depth of the building on the 3rd level. That's in a small bathroom, and it's primarily intended for ventilation. And I will add that the neighbors on both sides have signed their support of the application as it stands.
Okay, any,
It's the emergency test they're doing today for everybody.
okay, any other, so no more questions? Okay, no more questions. We're in committee. We can proceed with discussion.
I think what's being proposed is not out of line with what's present in the neighborhood. I think the depth is mainly below ground, and certainly what's being proposed is not imposing on the properties on either side. I think there was evidence presented in the filed submissions that speaks to the other approvals that have been granted, and with the agreement of the applicant's agent with respect to the screening on the third floor balcony, I would be satisfied that this is appropriate.
Okay, so it's on the north and south side of the balcony.
That's right.
Third floor balcony. Okay,
Be prepared to move a
Unless-
motion if there's no
Yeah,
other
before we move the motion, and the first variance, that, are we proper to say that the last, second to the last line in the first variance is main wall, not male wall?
Yes.
okay, so that is a spelling mistake, which we will correct.
Yes, I suppose you're right.
Any other discussion?
No, I would just say I agree with Ms. Hayes that what's being proposed fits within the context of the neighborhood. They have a lot of support, including the adjacent neighbors.
I agree, and the agent has provided sufficient evidence. Cover letter, there's also forestry condition number 1. So, Mr. Carlson, no more discussion? Okay, so Ms. Hayes, is that a motion then?
Through you, Madam Chair, I have a motion to approve the application with the forestry condition 1 and the condition of privacy screens on the third floor balcony on the north and south ends.
Okay,
I believe it's appropriate.
okay, thank you. So motion to approve has been moved by Ms. Hayes, including the 2 outlined conditions. Do we have a seconder? This is the typical 1.5? 1.5 meters from the ground, or from the floor of the deck.
Second.
Okay, second by Ms. Omen, all in favor? So the application has been approved. Okay, thank you very
Madam
much.
Chair.
Item number 26, 505 Ontario Street. The committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. We have 6 photographs of the subject property. We have the copy of the letter sent to the neighbors, and then we have a staff report from Urban Forestry. If you can please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, I'm Monica Kuhn. I'm the agent for the owner, who's also here. Before we start, I have a letter of support from our attached neighbors to the north at 507.
Okay. Okay, so we'll also proceed with questions, unless panel members want a presentation.
No.
Okay, panel members, do you have any questions?
Ms. Cohen, variance number 4, you're saying that 96% of it will be maintained in landscape. Why do you need that variance if the bylaw is 50%? The bylaw.
Well, right now, the whole backyard is hardscape.
Yeah?
The whole backyard is hardscape. So
Okay.
when they re-landscape it, they're going to introduce some green, but it's still less than what would be required.
Yeah, I was just wondering why you needed the variance.
Yeah,
There's an existing parking pad, is that correct?
yes, and an existing deck.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, no more questions. We're in committee discussion or motion.
I think on balance, I am comfortable, given that it's an existing condition, but variance number 4 is problematic to me.
Variance number 4. Well, she doesn't need it, but she wants to put it in because she's making the changes.
Yeah, perhaps we should consider a permeable paving requirement on the parking pad?
I think the parking pad is already,
Yeah, I'm not taking it out at this
Yeah.
point.
though the agent did highlight that they are adding 9 meters squared and a green space to the back.
The planting.
Yeah, I mean, the condition is improving.
Yeah, it's an improvement to the site.
I wanted to raise it. On balance, I think we're okay, but. Yes, I will. If there's
I second the motion.
Okay, so let's have the motion.
Okay, yes. I move approval of the application, subject to forestry condition number 2.
Okay, so a motion to approve has been moved by Mr. Carlson, second by, including the forestry condition, second by Mr. Russell then. All in favor? So the application has been approved. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Item number 27, 156 Palmerston Avenue. If you can have the agent please come up. So the committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. We have C of A decisions, 2 decisions affecting the subject property. We have supporting material from the agent. We have a staff report from community planning dated November 26. And then we have correspondence opposition from 811 Dundas Street West, as well as 148 Palmerston Avenue, and then 9 signature petition opposition from various owners on Dundas Street West, as well as Palmerston Avenue. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you. My name is Joseph Mazzatelli. Yes, I understand. I spoke to the planner and regarding the letters. This is basically a new 3-story house. It was refused last time at committee, and since then we've made what I believe are major changes and reductions in all the variances. I have with me a package to demonstrate that there are at least 9 houses in the immediate area that are 3-story and have similar variances. And I also have 7 photographs of these houses. And we also have a petition letter signed by 10 people, one of whom is the immediate adjacent neighbor.
Of support, or?
I'm sorry?
I'm assuming it's support, right?
Yes, in support. Can I bring these up to you, please?
Sure. So maybe with the photographs, you can put them on the projector and take us through the different addresses.
Sorry, I only have 2 sets of this.
So you know what, perhaps it's better, are these new plans? Are you revising the plans?
The other thing that has occurred, at the last minute, we have removed one of the variances.
Okay, so let's deal with that first. So if you can keep the plans, just for now, if you can keep one copy. Do you have an extra copy for
I've
yourself?
got my own copy, but you can have
Okay.
this too.
You can probably just.
So let's first deal with the variance you're revising, and then perhaps you can take us through the plans to show us where the revisions are being made.
And also tell us how they differ from the previous decisions, because apparently there have been more than one previous decision made on this property.
Okay, so first let's start with the changes, amendments you're making to the current application.
Okay, so in the package, you'll have the letter addressed this morning from Robert Frigelli with a new zoning review, and it only has 3 items.
Okay.
What necessitated the new zoning review?
Yes, can you see that? Okay, so that was last-minute changes that we were making.
You need to move the lamp, just twist it, the other lamp. Yeah, just twist it away because it provides way too much light. Yeah.
Yeah, so previously, anyway, the previous submissions committee had, I believe, 5 variances with all larger numbers. We've reduced them all. We've decreased the length of the dwelling by about 1 meter. We've reduced the coverage.
Okay, so you're amending variance number 2 then?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go through the public notice and tell me what you're changing on the public notice.
Okay.
So does variance,
You're removing variance 1, right?
Yeah, so we're removing variance 1. We did that physically by altering the design of the house so that there is a slope roof in the front and the rear.
okay, so removing variance 1 and the bylaw 569/2013. Number 2 also will change. You said you're amending number 2? You're,
Yes, so
so 1 meter, did you say?
number 2 has been reduced, and that's a smaller number for the length.
So what is the,
There was a depth.
So what you see, 17.96 is the correct number, and that's less by about 1 meter from the previous application.
okay, so that's correct.
Yes, that's correct. And item 3, because we've made the sloped roofs at the 3rd floor, both front and rear, and additionally, I've recessed the front wall roof 1 foot further in. We're now making it smaller, slightly smaller. So that number, the floor space index, can become 1.12. Very slight difference, but still smaller. And the area now becomes 322.93.
So you've changed that since this last zoning examiners?
No, he didn't
This says
notice that, but I can
Oh, okay.
make that
Sorry, I
change
was just
immediately.
trying to,
Yes,
so you're That's different than what the zoning.
Yes, so we've lessened that. So the only variance we can't lessen is item 4, because the existing current house is already on lot to lot with existing foundations. So the owner, for ease of construction, simply wishes to build on top of that. And as well, the adjacent neighbor to the north, he's also on the lot line. So we have support of the neighbor immediately to the south. We have support of 10 people in total. And you'll see through the examples I've given you, there's actually a house on our very own street that's a full 3-story, has similar variances and larger coverage. So the examples I've given you range from 1.15 coverage to 1.23, 1.25.
Packages.
Yes, in the package, there's 1.35. There's 2 that have increased from 0.6 to 0.9, which is a big,
Sorry, you're moving a little bit too fast.
Okay.
So first, in regards to the amended variances, so you have a new zoning report,
yes?
and as Ms. Hayes highlighted, there's one variance that's, which variance?
Why, variance number 3 is different than the zoning report? Because you're saying you want to change it to 1.12 now.
Yes. So one of the variances is gone, we only have 3, and the variance with the coverages, I now wish to ask for 1.12, which is smaller, and 320,
Wall height variances are gone?
yes.
Yeah, the variance number 1 has been deleted.
Variance number 2 with respect to depth remains the same at 17.96 you're requesting.
Yes, which is smaller than the previous application.
1.12 for the floor space index,
Yes,
and the side yard setback remains as requested.
physically the same, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so this zoning report is older version then? 'Cause-
That's this morning's.
Okay. Because this one specifies the proposed floor space index is 1.14 times the area of the lot.
Yes, so he didn't have time to review the areas, so I'm now making that verbal request to you as a reduction.
As long as you feel comfortable amending the
So
application.
Yes.
what is that meter squared then?
It's 322.9.
Thank you.
Okay,
So it's my opinion that overall this house will fit into the neighborhood. It's no larger than other houses. It's similar to other houses. There are many 3-stories on the street. Immediately south of us, number 110 has greater variances and is a full 3-story to the street. And with the support of the neighbors, I hope that you support this.
okay. So are these the drawings that match the FSI and the variance
Yes.
that you removed?
Yes,
And you're submitting them today, because they're not?
yes, and Robert Frigelli has those already.
And you've seen on the planning staff report, are you okay with those?
Yes, I spoke to Amy Wang, and she basically asked us to adjust the roofs, and I went further than that. And we're fine with the privacy screen, we're fine with that.
The only thing is the planning conditions specify the plans that we currently have on file, which are dated November 21st. Are these the November 21st?
No, those are as of yesterday, November 27. And the review was today.
This is a lot to download.
Well, I'm
onto us.
basically asking to remove variance number 1 and to make those 2 reductions on the areas.
But how do we know that planning is okay with these plans?
Oh, because they're a reduction. It's a reduction. Amy was fine with the overall size of the house. She just wanted the roof adjusted.
Okay.
I'm not seeing that as at any risk, because I've spoken to her. It's a reduction from the other previous house.
Panel members, so how do you feel about these changes? Are these extensive changes? Do you feel comfortable moving forward?
Because they're reductions,
Especially, I think the major point of contention for opposing it was the wall height instances. I think with that variance completely removed, we have.
The documentation was a lot, but I think the changes are simple.
Okay. So in terms of the planning conditions, because we have to work out how these will,
But even condition 2 speaks to a maximum building depth, so if it's less, it would still meet that condition.
It's just the first condition speaks to the November 21st plans.
We have new plans,
So
just
we
change
can
it to,
amend it to the new date. What's the new date on the?
You can just say submitted to C of A.
Yeah.
C of A, November 28th. Okay. Okay. If you feel comfortable proceeding, you can go ahead. Would you like to hear the evidence from the neighborhood in terms of the photos and explanations?
No.
No? Okay. So, any more questions, panel members?
No.
Okay, no more questions, so we're in committee discussion.
this is, I mean, I don't think substantial covers how much better this is than the last time we saw it. This is, to me, a good proposal for the site. And the prior application was something else entirely.
Yeah, I agree. The revisions have done a lot in making it more in keeping with what's in the neighborhood.
I would agree.
Okay. Yeah, we moved from 10 variances now to 3, so I think that is substantial change. Just to verify, so in terms of the amended application, so the first variance is being deleted, the bylaw 569-2013 in regards to main wall height, and then variance number 3 on the bylaw 569-2013 now reads 1.12 times, which is 322.93 meters squared. Okay, then I need more discussion. If not, I'll need a motion.
Through you, Madam Chair, move to approve the application as amended, subject to the condition number 2 in planning report dated November 23rd, 2018, and subject to the, substantially in accordance with the plans filed with the committee today, as I believe the application is appropriate and meets the 4 tests.
Okay, so a motion to approve the amended application has been moved by Ms. Hayes, including the outline conditions. Do we have a seconder?
You want to say, take out the removal of the variance number 1 and
I already,
As amended?
as amended.
yeah, okay. Do we have a seconder? Okay, Mr. Carlson, all in favor? So the application, the amended application has been approved. Okay, thank you very much. Item number 28, 572 Palmerston Avenue. The committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations, and then we have a 2-signature petition support from 568 and 570 Palmerston Avenue. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Joe Hoffman, Hoffman. I'm counsel for the applicant, the owners of 572 Palmerston Avenue, and both owners are with me here today.
Okay, so we'll proceed with questions, unless panel members want a presentation. Panel members, questions?
Variance number 1, Mr. Hoffman, is exterior main walls. It's going up to 10 meters, 2.5 meters beyond requirement of city bylaw. What do you have at the present moment?
Sorry, could you repeat the last part of the question?
What do you have there at the present moment?
Well, currently there's a flat roof on the property, and what we're proposing is a 3rd-story pop-up to accommodate a second unit. And the 3rd-story pop-up, if I could just show you maybe on the plan. To see that it's been thoughtfully designed. It's stepped back from the front of the property by about 18 feet. So from the street, you won't even be able to see the addition. As well, there's no windows on the rear or either side, so there's no overlook concern to the neighbors to the north or south. And I do note that the neighbors to the south, both 570 and 568, provided a letter of support. Our client also reached out to 25 members in the immediate vicinity, residents in the immediate vicinity of the property, and no one voiced opposition. And just to give you context for the neighborhood, but if you'll just see to the north of the property, to the far left of the picture is our client's property at 572. 2 houses north is 576. You'll see that there's a main wall that clearly exceeds 7.5 meters. And the same condition exists across the street as well. I brought a picture of that if you're interested. I'll just show you quickly. And I do note that no height variance is being requested as part of this application, so we are within the 10-meter height limit. All we're requesting is main wall variances of 2.5 meters, but only for a portion of the property, only the third-story pop-up. And again, no windows, no overlook concerns, push back from the front.
Any other questions? Okay, no more questions. We're in committee discussion.
Through you, Madam Chair, if there are no comments, I think that this application is indeed minor, meets the 4 tests. What's being proposed certainly fits within the context of the neighborhood, so I would move approval of the application.
Okay, so motion to approve has been moved by Ms. Oman. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Okay, second, Ms. Hayes. All in favor? So the application has been approved.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee.
Item number 29, 248 Warren Road. The committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. We have a cover letter from the agent. We have number of C of A decisions affecting the subject property. We have a staff report from Urban Forestry dated November 21st, and then we have correspondence and support from 243 Warren Road. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair, or afternoon, rather. My name's Jane Pepino, and I act on behalf of the owners.
Okay.
Mr. Brennan, the architect and designer for the property, is here with me. I will just hand out to your staff and yourselves. We'll put one up on the overhead as well for members of the public. Hopefully able to quickly outline for you. I may have stuck those two secrets together. You got two there?
Yeah, I do, I think. Yeah.
As the committee noted, this property was subject to very minor variances granted in September of 2016. They dealt with many items, but were all premised on the technical fact that in this particular circumstance, the quote frontage under the terms of the bylaws deemed to be Warren Road, notwithstanding the relationship to Foxbar, number one. Number two, that it's a corner lot with all that that entails. And finally, that there is a fairly marked grade change from Warren down to the rear, that is from the right of the screen to the left of the screen, all of which have come to bear both on the structural plans as they were subsequently determined and on the construction. So the variances that are before you this afternoon have to do with trying to come to grips with those realities. The first variance with respect to, if I could ask you to put the other one up, please. I'll start from the bottom up. Thank you. Variance number 1, and it's shown as being basement, has to do with the side yard setback beyond the 17 meters for the north, quote, side yard, even though functionally it's the rear. The orange area that's marked on the overhead is in fact a patio at the ground level, a terrace, as permitted, and the application that would be permitted by variance number 1 is to excavate and to use for storage space the area below that terrace, which is going to have to be constructed in any event. So it's going to be excavated. The foundation wall will be at the northerly edge of that, but this application is to allow it to be excavated within the ochre area and used for recreational room storage. Similarly, the two green areas at the south end are functionally on the basement level, and on the easterly part, that is to the right of the pool that you see, would be entirely underground and would be mainly but not entirely underground on the left or more westerly portions because of the grade change. Part of it pops out of the ground at that circumstance. If you've taken a look at the detailed plans, there is a foundation wall at the southerly edge of those green areas, and the application is to excavate within those areas, which are used as structurally as a retaining wall, and to stabilize the grade and to underpin the otherwise permitted pool terrace, and to use it on the west for garage storage, or storage, for rakes and lawnmowers and the like, and on the right for cabana and pool supplies. So that's what would happen at what is termed basement level. And then the next plan shows what is the changes that are being requested on what would be called ground or grade level. And that has to do first with, as you can see in purple, variance number 3, which is simply what you see above the otherwise excavated area that I showed you a moment ago that would be entirely below grade, and that would allow that area to be used by way of a terrace right to the zero lot line, that is to be on the foundation wall that otherwise is going to have to be constructed. And then the other variance has to do with the amount of landscape open space in the quote side yard, and that has to do with the fact that the previous application did permit the pool to come to 0.91 of the southerly lot line, and the two wings on either side to 0.0 meters at grade. And that has then some changes to both the interpretation and the nature of the landscaping being proposed in that area has taken that and made it a 0, because it's all going to be hardscaped to be a pool, a terrace around. The remainder of the green landscaping, of course, remains the same. Unless there are questions, that's my summary of the variances and the reasons for them.
Okay. Any questions?
Ms. Pina, let's move to your variance number 4. So you will have a pool there, but no landscape at all?
No, it's hard landscaping, not soft landscaping. It is, as a pool would have, a pool deck. It would have planters and the like, but that does not count as soft landscaping because it's not on dirt.
So what do you have to for percolation into the soil from the hard landscaping?
That would come, there is all green landscaping in the front yard, in the north side yard, and in the rear yard, save and except for the area that leads to the garage at the back. So the soft landscaping overall meets the bylaw standard. It's this particular area that is hard, not soft. To answer your specific question about drainage, of course, it will have to be very carefully handled because underneath that, there is already a permitted recreation room, for example, and it will have to also deal with the runoff from the roofs that would then come into that area. And I should just also note, by the way, that to the south of the property lot line, there is a very wide municipal right-of-way that goes down to Foxbar that is all green. So that would provide a very, very adequate and generous area for percolation.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. No questions? We're in committee discussion or a motion?
I would move for approval of this application in that with the urban forestry conditions 1 and 2 that's been subjected. And I look forward, I hope that the proper hard landscaping and soft landscaping is put into place to ensure proper drainage. So I move for approval in that it meets the 4 tests and it's not contrary to the character of the neighborhood.
Okay, so a motion to approve, including the 2 forestry conditions, has been moved by Mr. Russell. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. Hayes, all in favor? So the application has been approved. Thank you very much.
Committee.
Item number 3294, Roncesvalles Avenue. Could the agent or applicant please come up? The committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, and floor plans. We have 6 photographs of north, east, west, and south side of the subject property. We have the cover letter from and the document review index from Christian Chan, the applicant. Number of building archives information, quite large package of supporting information. We have a staff report from Community Planning dated November 26, and then we have correspondence and opposition from 310 Roncesvalles Avenue. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Chair. My name is Christian Chan of C2 Planning. I'm the agent for the applicant 294 Roncesvalles, Inc. Here before you, I also have the proprietor of the business of Sweet Peas, a neighbor, and the owner of the property, Alex Brugance. With regards to the opposition letter, I haven't seen that.
Have you seen the planning report?
Planning report.
Oh, the planning report, yes, I have, so I can address that, so.
Okay, so we'll first deal with the planning report. I mean, I can give you a copy of the opposition letter. It's dated. It was received, received yesterday. So you can take a look at that.
Yes, I'd also like to submit more letters of support
Okay.
that were received yesterday from the applicant.
Okay.
And I'll address the planning report. So the purpose of the proposal is to maintain a commercial use on the property, to legalize the new, or perception of the new use of a florist shop. The city is determining this as a retail shop. There is no definition of a service use based on a floral shop vis-a-vis the use. So it's wrapped into a retail shop use. And in fact, the retail component of the proposed use constitutes no more than 30% of the business activities. The business activities is strictly, or more or less, related to the service provision of making floral arrangements. So the business type is primarily a service business type with a minor retail component. The majority of the clients are a walk-in client. Now, to go into the background of the property, the historic use, the building was built in 1900, and in 1949, there was a permission from the Committee of Adjustment to legalize a doctor's office use on the main floor in the basement. 1952, another Committee of Adjustment application to build the garage that is currently on the property, the one-car garage. And as far back as the records show, in 2004, there was the day spa use that was on the property, and it was legally as such because I have an FOI request that I've sent to Municipal Licensing and Standards, which shows that Municipal Licensing and Standards inspected the property for their yearly license. And just to continue on that too, is that as part of an approval for a personal services shop under Municipal Code for Licensing, Chapter 545, that they are required to have a PPR and a zoning approval for a day spa use. In 2017, the current owners took over the property and continued the day spa use up until about 2 or 3 months before December 2017, so we're talking September. And December 2017, that's when the new florist shop occupied the space. To explain the site, the site's in the southeast corner of Grenadier, southwest corner of Grenadier and Roncesvalles. This is a site that's well served by transit. It's on the 504 streetcar route. There's street parking on both sides. There's 24-hour parking by ways of parking permits for the residents that are in the property. The neighborhood is characterized by a vibrant retail strip on Roncesvalles. 2 or 3 story mixed-use commercial buildings, and on this side, residential buildings that are 2 stories, and the residential neighborhood surrounding it that are 2 and 2.5 story semi-detached and detached buildings. I'd like to note that as part of the submission, we have significant community support for this project with over 250 signatures on a petition, or 218 signatures on a petition and 250 a person signed form letter signed of support. We have 4 variances from both bylaws, which constitute 3 variances, those being land use from both bylaws, parking, to seek reductions in parking, and to address that, there is no opportunity to provide parking on the site, more parking without impacting other site characteristics such as trees and landscape open space in the rear yard. And the 3rd variance is for floor space index, which is maintaining the exact same floor space index on the site and in the building. I'd like to direct the committee's attention to the 8 guidelines as part of the West Side study.
Okay, so you're at 5 minutes, so if you can quickly wrap up, and then if you have any questions, you can respond to them.
Yes. So I've reviewed the 8 guidelines, and 4 of them are related to the nature of the business and the built form, and I provided that chart in my report, and it's my opinion that this application in the C of A's review conforms to those guidelines. And if there are any questions on my report or any part of my submissions, happy to entertain them.
Panel members, do you have questions?
Yes, Madam Chair. First thing is, why wasn't this a zoning application? It seems like there's all kind of things to be placed in it that could be addressed at zoning review? Why wasn't it a zoning application?
Why is this is a
Yeah, it seems like, yeah, there's some things inside here that should have been addressed even, that could have been addressed at zoning review.
So this is something that also the planning report speaks to, that
Yes.
they believe that a better process would be a rezoning application for this type of development.
Okay, I would submit to the committee that the planning staff report is not comprehensive in that the West Side study specifically indicates that the guidelines are to be used in any sort of review for either a rezoning application or a committee of adjustment, and it rigidly applies that the City of Toronto planning staff would either see this as a rezoning or something that's already permitted under the bylaw vis-a-vis a home occupancy use. And in the study, it does refer to the fact that any applicant has the right to apply the committee of adjustment, and upon such applications that the guidelines, these 8 guidelines will form the basis of the review of the application. So the reason why I included that in my report is to provide my review of those 8 guidelines and to guide the committee in their independent review of that application, of the application of those 8 guidelines.
So is your position then, the statement in the planning report that says the guidelines indicate, regardless of whether or not you meet the guidelines, that adding small-scale retail service or office uses in the study area should go through rezoning? So do you not agree with that statement?
I don't agree with that statement because when I'm reviewing the city staff's final report of November 22nd, 2013, it specifically states that the guidelines are to provide direction for reviewing both zoning bylaw amendments and minor variances.
But this is not an amendment. This is a change of use. It's usually a doctor's office and you want something different.
No, see, the City of Toronto, in their recent staff report, determines that the existing use was an accessories doctor's office. And in my submission package, I've shown that there's been a day spa use in that location for at least 14 years. And so to this respect, the city staff report is not comprehensive. I'm not sure if they even gone by the property in determining that this was an accessories doctor's use. There are no parking concerns that were raised by the city staff in the report. It's not a retail store, it's a florist. And
Retail component?
there's a minor retail component as part of the operation. The majority is going to be a florist shop
But
service
you've also used
use.
the word home occupancy several times. Would you consider a florist shop as a home occupancy? Because I don't think that's the same as a doctor's office, so that's number one. Number two, we got this morning when we came in, just before the meeting. So I would submit that if you want the committee to look through all of this, that you submit this in time, that we get it with our agendas.
Yes, respectfully, that was submitted last week as part of the agenda, and the Committee of Adjustment staff didn't want to print it up. And
Well, I
into
don't
the
think
file
that
folder.
committee doesn't want to print things. It clearly didn't get here in time to make the photocopying for all the.
They didn't
But
want.
anyway, it's
committee,
neither here nor there. We
Respectfully,
got
the
this
committee
morning.
staff did not want to print, I had to print that up and bring it to
There
the
is a comment from
committee to
clerks that
Can you,
bring it as part of the file.
copy limitations, they didn't
Could
want
you
to include
point
this.
to me, you mentioned that in
Yeah.
your presentation, you go over your arguments or the
They should not.
guidelines that you feel that there's a discretion that it be zoning or variance? Where is that in your package? Sorry, just,
This would be page 3 of the West Side study.
and where
Do we have
far
that with
into
us?
that is?
I didn't include it as part of the printed package. However, city staff did upload the entire volume on Friday
I
for
don't
the
have
online
West-
file.
I don't have them.
And if I am understanding communications from the city staff, they also indicated that at the end of my report that was included and printed in the file, that it would be submitted, that the committee members can view the rest of the volume online.
Okay, so in terms of the other uses that are on the west side of Roncesvalles, Can you give us an example of other retail uses on the west side of Roncesvalles in the study area? Because I know I'm somewhat familiar with the area, so I know there's doctors and dentistry offices, but in terms of retail on the west side of Roncesvalles?
In the immediate adjacent area to the subject site, there are grocery stores, there's a furniture shop, there's a butchery shop.
On the west side of Roncesvalles.
Oh,
Sure, if you want to come up, but you have to introduce yourself again and your address.
okay. In terms of this side,
I believe the east side is zoned differently. I believe that's mixed uses.
it is a mixed-use zone. This is an R2 0.6 zone. And there are no other retail uses on this side of the street. There's a music conservatory that went through a rezoning application, and that was in 2009. And the reason for that was because the entirety of the building was going to be converted from residential to a commercial use. And I'd like to note also that since the time of the West Side study, there hasn't been any applications for rezonings or minor variances in the study area. And the study was produced or was commenced on the basis that there was a significant concern from surrounding community that the West Side built form would be substantial, and land uses would substantially change as a result of applications that would come to the city. And this hasn't been the case. So in 5 years, this is the only application. And I'd like also to note that the West Side study included 50 members of the public that informed the study, whereas in this instance, we have over 400 supporters for the application in the surrounding areas.
Okay, if we can have, if you want to respond to anything?
My name's Sarah Jameson. I'm the owner of Sweet Peas. The majority of our business is either online, phone, or weddings. It's one of the reasons we moved to the other side of the street is that we were able to gain more production space and take away from our retail. Our retail takes up the same square footage as what the spa used for selling their own products. The rest of the building is used specifically for making arrangements, processing flowers, etc. So we haven't changed the use of the building all that much from where it was previously. The reason why I believe that we're here opposed to going through all the zoning application is because that same footprint has changed over, and we're not looking to create a commercial space or to get retail zoning put in. We're simply looking to add floristry to the already approved uses of the building. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying. If it's really relevant, you can, if you can come up and introduce yourself as well.
I think it is relevant because my name is Bernard Helen. I'm a 12-year resident of Grenadier. I live at 114 Grenadier, which is basically opposite the spa, opposite the floor shop, and I did go to the spa. So I was a client of the spa when it was Sukkah Spa, and I support this, and I can speak on behalf of residents who do support it. We were thrilled, actually, when we found out that a florist shop was moving into the neighborhood, because who doesn't want their street to look pretty and smell good? I mean, it's a great business to have on the strip. What I can say that I think is directly relevant to this is, and I've got nothing to gain here, I'm not affiliated, I'm not an employee, I'm just a resident. It's true that the space has not changed. The impact on the community has not changed. The amount of retail has not changed. Like, I've been in both operating businesses, and I can say without a shadow of a doubt that A, residents love this business. It's a great asset to the community. And B, from an impact on the residents, it's no different than what was there. It really isn't. There's no difference in traffic flow. There's no difference in, impact in our lives, other than the fact that we can now walk and get really awesome flowers at the foot of our street.
But Sweet Peas hasn't been in operation yet in this location, right? You're just talking about the spa. When there was an operation, didn't really change much in terms of...
The spa had retail, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the spa had retail.
Okay.
So there's no difference.
Okay, thank you.
From my perspective. Thanks.
I have a question in terms of, so if it is, I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of deliveries in terms of the flowers coming in. So how is that going to be dealt with? Because
so in terms of deliveries for flowers, it's myself, as I'm bringing in the majority of the flowers, have a small passenger or It's a Metris, which is the smallest of the cargo vans available on the market right now. Those come in, usually I park for about 10 minutes in front of the shop. We unload everything and the van disappears. We don't bring in any more vehicles or anything like that than what's going on the other side of the street. There's no parking on the other side of the street, so the majority of the trucks and deliveries that are coming are actually servicing the retail spaces a wing on the other side from us. Our deliveries are picked up by a delivery service. They are using passenger vehicles, so usually it's a minivan or a small car or something like that. They come in first thing in the morning around 8 a.m. and then again around noon. That's it as far as deliveries going in and out. We usually are loading, because we're dealing with perishable products, we're usually loading within 10 or 15 minutes at very most. The only other time that we do deliveries is that, or when we're moving in and out, is for weddings, and that's usually on weekends, and again, minutes.
Roncesvalles, so you use the Roncesvalles?
We use the Roncesvalles entrance, yes.
Okay, thank you. Panel members, do you have any other questions?
Did you have a chance to speak to Planning Department about your different interpretation of the application of the guidelines?
No, and the reason is because the Planning Department also sent their report on Friday at about 5:45, so it's also timely in terms of their review.
You purchased the building in 2017, is that right?
Yes, the owner purchased the building in early 2017, so the spa use was
It's a year ago. And there was a doctor's office there before, and so you have now moving it.
It was a spa for 14 years. Prior to that, it was a doctor's office. We haven't changed anything within the building to the point where even our retail space is, quite frankly, it's inside what used to be the living room. It's a room that's maybe 12 by 14 feet.
I've actually been to the spa. So I know. So how did the spa get approval to operate in that building?
Are you not conflict to go to this?
No, the spa is not.
Oh, okay.
So how did the spa get in that space?
Okay, so the best way I can answer that question is I looked at the zoning, I looked at Committee of Adjustment decisions. There was nothing to speak to that regard. However, I did conduct a Freedom of Information request for all Committee of Adjustment decisions and municipal licensing approvals for the property. And as I said before, the municipal licensing standards did have a license on the property, and through that process, they would have had to get a PPR to approve that use on the property.
Okay. Members, any other questions? Okay, so we're in committee now, discussion.
Just the parking, you only, sorry about that. You only need one parking space when 5 were required?
Yes, so the zoning provides that based on the square meterage of the commercial use, that there's a certain parking requirement. This would have been applied to the previous commercial use as well. And then on the site, there's no opportunity to create more parking without impacting other site characteristics as landscaping. There are 2 residential rental units above, and those also require 2 spots, so it's already deficient in terms of the residential aspect as well. And considering that the site is well served by transit, has a walk score of, I believe, 99, 504 streetcar route, which provides 24-hour TTC service, and other transportation characteristics around the area. And also there's street parking provided overnight and permit parking for A in the neighborhood.
Just have one quick question. In the letter of objection we received, that I think was shared with you, the second last paragraph, speaking to street displays, et cetera, is that occur? So are you using the sidewalk for retail display?
Yes, the owner did use the street, the sidewalk as a Christmas tree display last year, and intends to do so as well.
But that's in the garage, right?
This year? Sorry.
Is that
It says,
is the sidewalk?
It said sidewalk.
So essentially, we can't apply for any permits to use the sidewalk until we have the zoning. It's the same thing that we had last year. We worked a lot with the bylaw and the municipal, and basically we just adjusted as we were told what we could and couldn't do.
Okay, so from an impact perspective, though, you have the, from a change of use or change This would be different than the doctor's office where they weren't displaying. Your desire is, ultimately, this was approved, that you would be using the street
We wouldn't
front?
be putting anything on the sidewalk. We don't want to be putting our plants or flowers or anything like that out onto the road. That's not the type of flower shop that we are.
Okay. So this is incorrect then?
I'm not sure which part of it that they're speaking to with respect.
Use the sidewalks for displays?
I think typically there is some kind of commercial operation in that garage where this person sells Christmas trees, or sometimes it's like woodwork.
Sweepies has been selling Christmas trees for a number of years. Again, currently we were selling them out of the garage last year because the interior space was unavailable to us. All we need to know is if we're not able to sell them directly out of the garage, then the guys will simply hand them an invoice. They will pay for everything inside, and we will change and amend the way we function based off of what we need to do in order to be in compliance.
Okay.
We're not objecting to anything one way or another. As far as displays and stuff like that, everything that we've done in the past was either against the garage or in front of the garage. But we haven't, I know that there was someone who was selling woodworking products out of there at one point when the spa was there. That's completely unrelated to what we've done, and no one has been there for years in that regard. And then this past week, we had flower bulbs out front, and the only reason we had them there was because, quite frankly, even yesterday, and if you go through our social media, you see we were giving those away to the neighborhood. We were saying, come get them, take them away. It was past the simple where we could sell them. They were gone in 2 days.
In addition, with specific regards to the sidewalk sale, there is a process by which the owner can apply to Municipal Licensing and Transportation Department for that. Similarly, in terms of an impact, a flower shop is specifically listed on a business that does not require a license, whereas the previous use as a day spa does, which again involves an application for a PPR and also a criminal check for the owner. And in this instance, none of those are required.
Essentially, I live in Roncesvalles. I've been in Roncesvalles for well over a decade. I have no inclination to do anything other than help the community as a whole. I don't want to impact it negatively. In fact, if anything, I do a lot of community work. I've won awards for the community work that we've done through both the shop and through when Sweepies was a landscaping company before it was a flower shop. Essentially, again, we've been good neighbors, and we're not trying to make this into something that it hasn't already been done before. If anything, we're trying to bring life to that corner, because previously it's always been very dark, desolate. No one's really had anything in there. We plan to put gardens in. We put in a beautiful mural this year, and that was with the support of the street art program through the city. We're trying to make this place more beautiful.
And I feel like none of us doubt your intentions to beautify the space and contribute to the community. The issue here is just the process that this application would be approved through, about the rezoning versus the of A. Okay, panel members.
May I make a comment on that?
Sorry?
Am I allowed to make a comment on that?
We're at 24 minutes, so I think if there's any other questions? No? Okay, so we're in committee.
Do you have one thing you want to wrap up?
Yes, just, we have had discussions with the city, and they did, from the start, recommend that they would state that they would review it on the basis of a rezoning, and just in adhering to their West Side study guidelines, it's either a rezoning or a minor variance based on a home use occupancy, but then they also stated to us that it's in the purview of the Committee of Adjustment while using those 8 guidelines to decide whether the use is acceptable.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're in committee discussion.
Having heard a lot about the nature of the business, I still am left back with the planning recommendation that there is potential for impact, use that is not permitted, and a set of guidelines that are explicit that this type of application should go through rezoning.
And I really believe it should go through zoning. The other thing is that, in fact, if we have to deal with this application, we have to change the usage. This is not minor. our position is to deal with minor variances. So I still don't see why we should, this matter should be dealt with here. It should be, there are a lot of significant issues that can be dealt with through zoning, and it should be done that way.
Yeah, I mean,
for whatever reasons, council decided that it was appropriate that there be West Street guidelines. It doesn't necessarily mean that if somebody applies that if it is as an intrusive or as valuable, as an improvement, that it wouldn't receive support. But for whatever reason, they've decided that a certain rigor is going to be required for certain types of applications. I can't sit here and rethink what their reasons were, but they seem to be clearly in the planning report, and without a planner here to speak about that's interpretive, I'm not sure that we have
am a planner.
an option.
So, sorry.
I'm not sure we have an option.
I would disagree.
But I'm not sure. I'm prepared to talk about it.
Yeah, I would disagree, because as I read in the introductory speech, we hear applications, permissions to extend and alter lawful non-conforming uses. And as the agent highlighted, there has been retail use for the last 12 years, which has received approval from the city. The proposed change might be different in terms of name from doctors or spa to retail store, but in actuality, the business is quite similar to the spa that has existed there for 12 years. In terms of the impact, in terms of the development being appropriate for the site and for the land, we have heard a lot of support from the local neighborhood for this type of business. In terms of the official plan, I do think this is on a major street. There is public parking. There is number of non-residential uses on the west side of Roncesvalles. The variances, the FSI's existing condition, I would argue that they are minor. I would actually be in support of this application.
I'm actually somewhat conflicted, because I think there were some very compelling arguments from the agent. In looking at this submission by this resident, I thought floral shop, maybe, but when I see that there's hundreds of Christmas trees that are being stacked there, I kind of ask myself, is that going to happen? Like, if it's a small little mom and pop floral shop and it's all online, but if there's going to be then these kinds of things that are going to happen, then I do think it should go through a rezoning so that it encompasses, any potential impacts on the neighborhood. So although I hear your arguments, and there are shops, I believe, across the street, and the variances are upon themselves not, they're minor, but.
I would argue that that's largely the point of the guideline for this being a rezoning, that this isn't an area where retail is inherently inappropriate, but it is an area with a very fine-grained mix of uses where changing the use of a particular building needs a real level of review beyond what typically happens here.
And I would like to add that the message was conveyed to the applicant clearly by planning, and they chose to come forward to C of A, and that's their right. But I think, I agree with Mr. Carlson. The rezoning really looks at a broader scope of what the business, is it going to be Christmas trees like in December, and then huge pots placed all over the place for the summer? I don't know, but
Just to provide some context, there are a number of other retail stores that utilize the sidewalk on Roncesvalles to display Christmas trees, and that's almost like a common feature during this season on Roncesvalles. But I think I agree, Mr. Carlson, that there is the rezoning process for a reason, but I would say that that process is intended to be utilized for major revisions or variances to the site. I would argue that this could be considered quite minor because of the fact that there is a 12-year history of retail use at this property. There is no external changes in terms of adding to the FSI. The building is still being utilized for residential uses.
But the issue here is that what we're looking at is the change of legal use. I'm quite satisfied with the presentation done. It was a very well presented presentation. I've sat on some of these committees, these study committees for different years of the city, and that's how the study committees end up. But at the end of the day, after the study committee has said these things, you can do this or do that, the bottom line is there is a process in place. You must deal with that process through that process.
But there's also, under our provisions, we have the jurisdiction to alter lawful non-conforming uses.
Committees of adjustment do have the ability to create a new use, but that doesn't mean we necessarily should in any particular case. And I would emphasize Mr. Russell's observation about the change in legal use, I think, is significant. I think there's a tendency to write off the difference between a personal services shop and a general retail use, which we have heard evidence may not be such a large distinction in this case for this business, but that distinction does exist for a reason. And even the business as proposed, is the Christmas tree point is relevant. There's a significantly higher traffic level associated with general retail than personal services.
Yeah, but this is not necessarily general retail. I mean, as the agent has
And the legal
highlighted-
use is.
Yeah.
Sorry?
But just back to the Christmas trees, because you were talking about the display on the sidewalk, I can buy that, but this is talking about hundreds of trees in the backyard for sale. So again, I look at that and I think that we're introducing a use that potentially.
Well, I mean, we don't know also, I mean, these guidelines were adopted in 2014, so 4 years ago, but not that long ago in planning life. And, whether or not, there may be other sites on Roncesvalles where, retail uses may have existed and maybe shouldn't have been. And there was some reason that this came forward and was recommended, or the council pushed for it, or something happened that they felt that there was an issue that they wanted to control, or at least have full public consultation on and allow everybody to comment. The end result may end up not being different, but they wanted to ensure that the process allowed for full comment, and that's what my concern is with respect to going against that, regardless of whether or not at the end of the day the shop may be a floral shop, but this is a retail thing. It's not specifically related, tied to floral once you change it.
To expand on that, I think the council has said that there is a desire to maintain the mix of building form and use on Roncesvalles, while recognizing that there is pressure toward commercialization. And as much as there is a history of retail and business use at this site, we're looking at a house that is zoned for residential use. And I think council has made a clear indication that a public review is warranted for those conversions in this area.
I think we've spent a lot of time on this one, so.
Okay, so I am waiting for one of you to make a motion.
I just, one other thing, based on the planning report, it looks like the legal non-conforming is for a doctor's office, so I'm not sure the spa was legal non-conforming.
Okay, so I need a motion.
Through you, Madam Chair. I would move a motion to refuse the application, and I believe the Roncesvalles Avenue West side guidelines require that this type of matter proceed by way of rezoning.
Okay, so a motion to refuse has been moved by Ms. Hayes. Do we have a seconder? Okay, Mr. Russell, all in favor? Dissenting, so I'll dissent. So the variances have been refused. Thank you.
If we could also make an observation about this note in our package.
But we got the note.
Yeah.
this morning.
Well, no, we got the package this morning, but the blue sheet was also like,
Yeah, this is a blue sheet.
yeah.
Okay, so we move forward with an contested item. So we only have one contested item in this time slot. So it's, sorry, two items that are sister applications. Item number 22 and item number 23. So 984 and 982 Dovercourt Road. Okay, before you proceed, I'm just going to state what the committee has on file for this application. So item number 22, we have a plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. We have correspondence from 986 and 975 Dovercourt Road. And then we have correspondence in opposition from 978 to 980 and 976 and 980, once again, Dovercourt Road. And for for the 23, item 23, we have basically the same letters in opposition on file, and as well as the site plan, as well as floor plans and elevations. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is David Riley with SGL Planning. I'm here on behalf of the owner.
Sorry, is the opposition still
The
here?
opposition is not here.
Okay, so they,
Yes, so their concern related primarily to a property management and construction issue. So on this property right now, or on both properties, I'll address them together because they're actually mirrors of each other. Well, I'll call them mirrors of each other, although the property sizes are a little bit different. So the size of the building is a bit different. The approved building permit on each property is actually for the footprint of the plans that you have in front of you. The new thing about each half is that there's a third story proposed, as well as the front and rear balconies. That results in the variances. I did want to note that for 982, variance number 5 is for a reduction in the minimum required soft landscaping strip of 1.5 meters, that we will no longer be seeking that variance.
okay, so you're deleting item number 23, variance number 5?
Correct. The reason for that is when I was reviewing the plans, I noticed that on 984 it was shown. My question was, well, why isn't it shown on 982 as well? Because it can easily be provided. In fact, the entirety of the rear yard is sod, or is proposed to be sod. But the reflection of that minimum 1.5 meters was only shown on one half, so the zoning examiner triggered it for 982 as well. So we're comfortable to remove that variance entirely, and therefore a minimum 1.5 meter soft landscape strip would be provided.
Okay. Panel members, do you have any questions?
So you're currently proceeding with a two-story building.
Correct, yes. So that's under construction, and the two-story building, as per the approved building permit, doesn't include a balcony at the front, whereas a balcony, which is meant to function as an area of refuge according to the building code, as I understand, at the front and the rear, these are quite narrow lots, and so you actually only have one unit per floor. I think the third floor is about 600 square feet, and the second and first floor is about 500 square feet in each. So it just gives you an idea of the size of the lot that we're dealing with. But being able to provide that area of refuge at the front and at the rear does provide, it has two functions. It provides for that safety function, but also a small amenity space. The balconies are not oversized in terms of they meet the size requirements of the bylaw. What's interesting and what I like about them is that if you picture the front of the building, picture the balcony on the second and third floor as recessed within the front wall. So it actually has side walls along at the front and at the rear to mitigate any sideways north and south privacy concerns. The neighbor that was here earlier lives at 151, which is 151 Hallam, which is the property that's immediately abutting the rear of 982 and 984. She didn't mention any property concerns. Her concern was related to, they've granted temporary access from the laneway across their property to the rear of these properties for construction purposes that's happening now. And she had some issues with the manager of the property. The owner's here today. We went outside, called the manager, and worked out a process that for any further issues that might come up, there's kind of a direct point of contact. But then her other concern was related to she was concerned about that soft landscaping, which we're now addressing by removing that variance.
So the FSI variances were your
Yes.
Would you provide us with some information about context of your request versus what's...
Certainly. So with respect to the floor space index, so as I mentioned, you're looking at the existing building footprint. The additional floor space index is results from the third floor. In looking at, I'll put the site plan up on the screen. Properties being so narrow, in order to provide those additional rental housing units that you need or additional units, really the option is to go back. And as I said, the size of them are 500 to 600 square feet. The addition of the third floor, although additional floor space index, in my opinion, there really is no impact in terms of privacy and overlook and massing. And in fact, you do have some examples, including across the street, which is one of the new constructions, one of the really only new constructions within this commercial residential zone along this section of Dovercourt and Hallam, which does show a similar form of development in terms of style, but also the three-story in terms of massing. And then there's also...
So what's the address on that one?
973 Dovercourt.
Crossroad.
There's also...
Okay, so you're at 6 minutes. If you can just wrap up, and then we'll ask you questions.
Just wanted to point out 153 Hallam, which is, again, nearby the property, and as well as this is actually a recessed third floor at 981 Dovercourt, which is across the street.
So these are your examples of front decks. Is that correct?
Front decks, but as well as just showing examples of where there would be additional floor space on the third floor. Which in my opinion is appropriate. There's no height variances being sought. This is a very transit accessible area in terms of providing for that additional rental unit. There's a bus along Dovercourt, as well as it's about an 8-minute walk. I Google mapped it this morning to the Ossington subway station, so it's a 700-meter walk.
So I have it written down that the existing FSI is at 1.28 times. It's 130 meters squared. I'm not sure.
I can look at that for you.
And that you're adding 66, I believe?
We're adding, on 982, it's 65 square meters. And on 984, it's 66 square meters.
The third floor.
And so the existing FSI would be 189.75 minus 65.36 divided by 97.59. 1.27. Using 982 as an example, it would be slightly different for 984 because of the property size.
Okay. Panel members, do you have any other questions? Okay, no more questions. So we're in committee discussion or a motion. So we'll just do two separate motions since item number 23 was amended. We deleted variance number 5 under bylaw 2013. Okay, discussion.
Through you, Madam Chair, I think that what's being proposed, there are a lot of additions and differing heights. There are some 3 stories that are inside the roof line, but nonetheless, the height would be approximately the same. And as was mentioned, there's no height variance. So I would be prepared to move approval of the application, as I feel it meets the 4 tests and fits within the context of the neighborhood. Sorry?
Item number
Application.
20.
We're doing 22 first, I thought, and then 22 or 23 would be the same.
Okay, so for item number 22, 984 Dovercourt Road, we have a motion to approve the variance application. Has been moved by Ms. Omen. Do we have a seconder? Okay, Mr. Carlson, all in favor? So the application is approved. Okay, so item number 23,
I move the same for the same reasons.
including the amended application.
Yeah, with the removal of variance number 5.
Okay, so there has been a motion to approve the amended application by Ms. Omen. Do we have a seconder? Okay, Mr. Russell, all in favor? So the amended application has been approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so this is it for the 1:30 PM time slot. So we're going to take a 10-minute break, but before we do that, I'm going to vet the agenda for the next time slot to determine which applications are being contested and will be held until all non-contested applications have been dealt with and cleared from the agenda. So for item number 31, 40 Barker Avenue, do we have the agent applicant here? Okay, do we have any parties in interest? 40 Barker Avenue. Item number 32, 183 Essex Street, agent applicant. Do we have any parties in interest? 183 Essex Street. Oh, yeah? Yeah, okay, sorry, I didn't see you. Okay, so what we do is we strongly advise you to step outside to discuss any, and hopefully resolve any outstanding issues. Okay, so now you're in support then? Okay, so we'll still have you come up just to make sure that whatever you resolve will be shared by the applicant, but that item will not be held then. We'll just proceed as is. Item number 33, 279 Cedarvale Avenue. If we have the agent applicant, do we have any parties contesting this application? 279 Cedarvale Avenue? No. Item number 34, 10 Grafton Avenue. Agent applicant, do we have any parties contesting this application? 10 Grafton Avenue? Yes? I'm the agent. Oh, you're the agent, okay. Item number 3546 Balmoral Avenue, agent applicant. Okay, do we have any parties contesting this application? 46 Balmoral Avenue. Item number 36, 119 Roseheath Avenue, agent applicant. Do we have any parties in interest or contesting this application? 119 Roseheath Avenue. Item number 37, 17 Murdock Avenue, agent applicant. Do we have any parties contesting this application or interest? 17 Murdock Avenue. Item number 38, 93 Knox Avenue, agent applicant. Okay, do we have any parties in interest for this application? No. Okay, so no items are being held for this time slot. And we'll start 25 after 3 with item number 31. Okay, so we're begin the hearing again.
Sylvia told me, so I'm just passing.
For item, if we can have the agent applicant, please come up for item number 31, 40 Barker Avenue. So the committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. Okay, if you can
Correct.
please introduce yourself and your address.
My name is Nick Sacconi, 103 Glenlong, and I'm the agent on this file.
Okay, so we'll proceed with questions unless panel members want a
Sure.
presentation, okay? Panel members, questions?
I have no questions.
No questions. We're at two-story addition, okay. Seems like there are no questions from panel members? No. Okay, so we're in committee discussion.
I think from what's been filed and the variance that have been requested, this truly is minor. And if my colleagues don't have any further comment, I'd be prepared to move a motion.
Okay.
So I'd like to, through you, Madam Chair, move a motion to approve the application. As I believe from a review of the material that's been filed, the matter is indeed minor and meets the requirements under the Planning Act.
I would agree. I'll second.
Okay, so motion to approve has been moved by Ms. Hayes, second by Ms. Omen. All in favor? So the application has been approved. Thank you very much. Thank you, you too. Item number 32, 183 Essex Street. The committee has in front of us, so if we can have both also the neighbors in concern, I guess, to some extent, or an interest that are here at the hearing. So the committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. We have email correspondence from community planning dated or received August 28th. We have two form letters in support from 185 Essex Street and 184 Pendrith Street. And then we have correspondence in opposition from 181 Essex Street. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself.
Mario Silva, I'm the agent for 183 Essex Street.
Okay, so perhaps if you can just start off with what was the conversation with the neighbors and if there was any resolution?
Right.
Any
okay.
adjustments?
You have a letter of opposition that was sent in. They're here to detract that letter.
Okay.
They're in favor.
Okay. So with the retracting of this opposition, was there any agreement that affected the variances or the plans? So if you can also introduce yourself?
My name is Chris Gibson, I'm a property owner.
Okay.
The agreement was that I would not build additional units and maintain, obviously, to the best of my ability, the city's noise bylaws. There was a complaint with previous owners of the property.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Before we proceed, perhaps with questions from the panel members, perhaps I can get one of the neighbors to come up and just confirm that they are retracting their letter in opposition and that all their concerns have been addressed. And
so my name is Sula Pantazis, and I'm here representing my dad, Nick Pantazis, who's the owner of 181 Essex Street. We originally wrote the letter, but Mr. Gibson and my dad have come to a resolution, and we're in agreement, so we will retract our letter.
Okay, thank you
for
very
much. Support.
Okay, thank you very much.
So I just want to confirm that you understand that that type of agreement is something between you and the owner and is...
And has nothing to do with this?
Yes.
Yes, totally.
Okay. Great, thank you. Okay, so if we're going to have the agent, the owner come up. Panel members, do you have any questions in regards to the variances?
Mr. Silva, variance number 1, you're moving from point, the city requirement is 0.6 times the lot area.
Right, it's 0.6 is what's allowed, and we are asking for 1.37.
That's more than double time what is
I'd like to say that this is a pre-existing condition. We are not building anything here. Also, this is including the basement area as GFA.
So your client purchased the property?
That is correct.
Like without knowing that?
He purchased some time ago.
So I purchased the property in 2010. The
Okay.
GFA or the zoning that was posted on the listing was R2Z2.
Mhm.
So I assumed that I was on board with the current usage. So the variance that what we're requesting today is to just legalize the existing use as is. There's no additional or incremental development.
With a landscape too?
All
That's
of it
correct.
is there. as
Everything's existing.
everything.
Are there any other homes that are similar in terms of look and feel?
Yes, so I can point one, which I was personally involved, which is 152 Wallace.
I'm sorry, which one?
152 Wallace.
52 Wallace?
And that was this year, that was approved this year. And we went from 0.6 to 2.17. That's, you can check that on your records.
There's also a property on Yarmouth that's, I think, 165, and a property on Dovercourt that's, I believe, 137.
How close does, it's not on our map, so these properties you're referencing, how close to yours?
Is a block away.
Block?
Okay, and is there any way to address the 0% landscaping variance? Is there anything you can do to somewhat?
Well, for
mitigate
soft
that
landscaping, there isn't, because it's all,
Building
there's no,
occupies the whole lot.
exactly, yes.
And the reason for that is the coach house that's legally attached to the building and on the city's files dating to 1931.
Mhm.
There when I purchased it, and that's why there's no soft landscape. The rest is poured concrete parking pads.
So it's a legal non-conforming situation, that coach, like,
Yes, because this was built in, we can show it in a 1931 survey that shows the coach house. So this is pre the zoning bylaws.
Sorry, it's the additional units that were built without permit?
Yeah, I mean, the reason why it's not to code or within the bylaw is because there are additional units, but those additional units have existed in the property since the 1980s. And I have rent rolls from the city to prove that. I haven't expanded. In fact, I've contracted the number of tenants that are in the house since I've owned the property.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. No more questions, we're in committee. Discussion or motion?
Well, through you, Madam Chair, it seems that there's no external change. This is in existence for many years, so there is no impact, and the neighbors have withdrawn their objections and worked things out. So I think this is in keeping with the neighborhood, and it's functioned fine. So I would be comfortable approving this application.
Okay, so a motion to approve has been moved by Ms. Oman. Do we have a seconder?
I will.
Okay, second, Mr. Carlson. All in favor? So the application has been approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 33. Thank you so much for coming out. Item number 33, 279 Cedarvale Avenue. Okay, before you proceed, the committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself.
So, good afternoon. My name is Alva Roy. I'm an architect, and on behalf of Mr. Radovich here, he's the owner. We just want to add up one story to existing detached bungalow in that area. So with minor variances of height and setback. The setback, we don't change any setback, we just existing setback is 24, and just we add up one more story and they consider as a setback new violation against the zoning.
Okay.
And the rest is, we have, it mentioned that we alter, we are fine to add up any more suite, a secondary suite to the basement, but without alteration to the face of the building, to the street. Okay. We didn't alter anything under the face, but I talked to Ms. Tina Pusateri, and so she considered as, because we changed the porch, we have a better look of the building, and we wider steps in the front, and just a little bit, yeah, she considered this one as a change. But we don't change, we don't change or projection or backup of the main floor.
Setback.
Of the main, yeah, setback.
Panel members, do you have any questions?
No.
In regards to this application?
No.
No. Nope. Okay, no more questions. We're in committee discussion.
This is a very simple second story. The only complication is it includes the additional unit, which is perfectly appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree.
Yep. Okay. So
I would just add both adjacent homes are 2 stories.
That's correct. Yes.
You moving the motion? motion?
So, through you, Madam Chair, I'd move approval of this application as I believe it to be desirable development for the site and within the intention of the bylaw and official plan.
Okay, so a motion to approve has been moved by Mr. Carlson. Do we have a seconder? Okay, Mr. Russell, all in favor?
Thank you very
The
much.
application has been approved.
Have a
Thank
good,
you.
Have a good day.
Item number 34, 10 Grafton Avenue. The committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. We have a cover letter from the solicitor, Frank Gardner, and then we have a C of A decision affecting the subject property. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself, and then we'll proceed with questions unless the presentation asks for, unless the panel members ask for a presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks to the committee members. Appreciate that. My name is Patrick Saavedra. I'm a licensed architect in the province of Ontario, and I'm here on behalf of Duncan Munn, the owner of the property, with regards to the variance that we're seeking regarding the parking relief on the property. And I do have some supporting material if
Okay,
you
sure.
care to make some copies for everyone.
Do we, panel members, do you want the supporting material?
If you have it, sure, we'll look at it. I think.
If you prepared a presentation,
we can see when.
Happy to know that I actually prepared something.
Right.
So they'll pay you
So,
the bill.
well, not only that, but
Invoice.
he wants to make sure that his mom, when she moves into the property, she has a great place to live in addition to renting out the basement that he's decided in the middle of construction to actually complete the renovation to the basement. It's an existing duplex that's been there for existing non-conforming, obviously, for decades. The property is about 90 years old. He's decided to upgrade the facility to current building code standards. And so we're proceeding with that. And in the middle of the process, he asked if we could consider renovating the basement, which then created a triplex, which created the notice with regards to parking not being met. And here we are. If we wouldn't have done the basement apartment, I wouldn't be here.
So are you saying that shared driveway allows for 3 cars to park?
It does, yes, it does, for 3 parking spaces. If you notice the property to the left of that, it also has another 3 shared parking spaces with their adjacent neighbor as well.
So tandem parking?
Yeah, it's basic back-to-back, and it's consistent with the neighborhood. I mean, the property is within 100 meters of the Roncesvalles streetcar and the bus, and on Queen Street. It's consistent with the neighborhood. There's very few driveways on, as you can see from the photographs I've taken not too long ago.
Still available on the street?
Oh, yes. And so parking is through permit and without permit. And it's obviously, there's limits to that as well. And it's consistent like the rest of the streets in the neighborhood there.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, no more questions. We're in committee discussion or
Madam
motion.
Chair, I think this is a very simple application. No need for us to use much time. I think it's minor in every respect and meets the 4 tests. It's in agreement with the character of the neighborhood. So I move for approval.
Okay, a motion to approve has been moved by Mr. Russell. Do we have a seconder? Okay, Mr. Carlson, all in favor? So the application has been approved. Thank you very much.
Just for the record, it's the first time I've been in front of a committee in 18 years. So I don't do these very often.
Well, I hope it's a great experience.
Might not always be as fast.
Hope that it's good like this next time, right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good one. Item number 3546 Balmoral Avenue. The committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. We have correspondence in support from 48 and 58 Balmoral Avenue. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Tony Henriquez. I'm the applicant for this application.
Okay, we'll proceed with questions unless panel members want a presentation. Panel members, do you have any questions?
No questions.
I just want, why don't you have a length variance on this one? You're constructing a rear 2-story addition.
Why we don't have a length variance? We're under the length. It's permitted to be 55 feet 9 inches or 17 meters. And basically our length is 9'10". We're approximately 13 meters. So we're quite a ways from a length variance.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, we have no questions. We're in committee discussion or a motion.
Through you, Madam Chair, there's green space behind. There are a lot of additions. What's being proposed is, in my opinion, minor, meets the 4 tests.
I believe the depth of the addition is similar to adjacent properties, yeah. If you look at drawing one, so, okay.
So I would move approval of the application.
Okay, so a motion to approve has been moved by Ms. Oman. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Ms. Hayes, all in favor? So the application has been approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
At number 36, 119 Roseheath Avenue. The committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. We have a staff report from community planning dated November 27th. And then we have 8 form letters in support by various owners, occupants on Roseheath Avenue, including both directly adjacent neighbors at 117 and 121. Okay, so with the community planning staff report, we have a staff report that recommends refusal. Okay, so if you can please introduce yourself.
My name is Bern Paisler, and I'm representing 119 Roseheath. I have some revised plans.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so you're revising most of the variances?
Yeah, we talked to a planner, Matthew Zentner, and basically what he agreed to is that if we step back the third floor 3 meters, he was okay with that. So I was kind of taken by him refusing the application, but if you look, I think it's the second paragraph. He says, should the committee choose to approve the application, condition should be imposed to require the third-story addition to be set back 3 meters from the main front wall and to require the requested variance to be revised accordingly to reflect resultant third floor step back and reduced floor space index. So what we've done is we've made all those revisions to the drawings. We've eliminated the height variance. So everything is going to be within the 10 meters. The main wall height we couldn't do anything about, because as you know, like if you're going to 30-meter height limit, then your main wall height is going to be pretty close to that. So our main wall height, and on the decision notice, I've highlighted all the changes. So we've actually reduced the main wall height, and we've reduced the floor space index from 0.83 down to 0.78. And the eaves projection, well, that one's existing, and the setback variance is also existing. So there's nothing we could really do about those 2 variances, but we've brought down the height, and we've made it, I think, a lot more compatible to the area, because now you won't be able to, at the front of the building now, you're going to see what was existing, the roof slope, and then the actual addition is set back much further, like 3 meters back.
Okay, and so these plans reflect the changes you
They reflect all the changes.
Okay.
And actually, there's just at last week's meeting, and I'm not sure if it was in front of this committee or the other one, 54 Aldridge was basically approved with almost, it's identical variances. Their variances are actually higher than what ours are. They went for a greater main wall height, and the floor area is a little bit higher, about 2% higher. I can show you what that looks like. That's what 54 Aldridge is. 54 Aldridge is directly behind this property, and that's what they got approval for last week at the November 21st meeting.
So you'd like like to amend the variances as noted on the first 2 pages of the handout you just gave us.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So that's leaving variance number 1, eliminating variance number 2, changing variance number 3 to 9.36 meters, changing variance number 4 to 0.78 meters. Variance number 1 remains the same to 438 and eliminating the second variance.
Yeah.
Right.
So once again, it's really important to do these changes before you come to a hearing. I understand that the planning report was submitted quite late.
Well, I just found out about it like last week. Last Wednesday is when the planner phoned me and said, we got a problem with the height, so then we scrambled to try to make something work. I mean, if they had to come to us like at the start of the process, it's been in for 3 months, right? We could have probably done it and then got a new review by buildings and, you know, it would have been copacetic.
Do you have any other questions?
I think it's, the revised application is truly minor. I'll be prepared to support the changes and the revised application. This is truly minor. He has done it with good intent. That is the spirit of appearance before the committee. So I'll move for approval if my friends do not have any other submissions to make.
Okay, so a motion to approve the amended application as outlined by Ms. Hayes has been seconded by Ms. Hayes. All in favor? So the amended application has been approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You want another copy? I got another copy.
Okay, item number Okay, so item number 37, 17 Murdock Avenue. The committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. We have correspondence and support from 46 West Lynn Avenue. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman and committee members. My name is Michael Shrazatvar, and I'm the agent on behalf of the homeowner at 17 Murdock Avenue.
Okay, so we'll proceed with questions, unless committee members want a presentation. Panel members, do you have any questions?
So is street parking available?
Yes,
Permit?
correct.
And there's permits still available?
That I don't know, but I know the homeowner does do street parking
Oh, currently.
currently, correct.
So if they needed a permit, they already have one.
Correct.
Right, thank you.
In terms of the eaves, is that is just maintaining existing condition in the front?
That's correct.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
Okay, no questions? Okay, we're in committee discussion.
I think this is a minor application. And if there's no other comments from my colleagues, I'd be prepared to, through Madam Chair, move a motion to approve the application as I believe it's minor and meets the four tests in the Planning Act.
Seconded.
Okay, so a motion to approve has been moved by Ms. Hayes, second by Mr. Russell. All in favor? So the application has been approved. Thank you very much. At number 38, 93 Knox Avenue, the committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. We have email correspondence from TRCA received November 23rd, and then we have a staff report from community planning dated, received November 26th. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Kathy Knott. I'm the homeowner and the designer for the property.
Okay, so we'll proceed with questions. Okay. Panel members, do you have any questions? It's enclosing the covered front porch.
Are you aware of the planning conditions?
Yes, I just saw those two. I believe there's two conditions.
Yeah, that's fine. You're okay with those?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. No more questions? Okay, no more questions. We're in committee discussion or motion.
This is truly minor in nature. Any concerns are dealt with the planning conditions, so unless there's further comment? Nope. Through Madam Chair, move approval of the application subject to the conditions outlined in the planning report dated November 22nd.
Okay, so a motion to approve has been moved by Mr. Carlson, including the planning conditions in the November 22nd report. Second by Ms. Oman. All in favor? So the application's been approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we have 10 minutes before the next time slot. We'll take a coffee and we'll begin at 4 o'clock with item number 30.
Yeah.
That's why Michael has showed up.
I think that's my fruit salad. Anita orders me fruit salad.
What's this one?
Some lactose free.
Take it. It's
Want some?
No, okay. Really?
This lady, Miss Chair.
Miss Mublin. Or you don't know my last name?
Yeah.
Do you want some? 'Cause there's a lot here. Okay. I saw that cookie's so dry though. I love clementines, but sometimes they're so bad. Yes, Okay, so so what I'm going to do first, I'm going to vet the agenda to determine which of the two last items are contested and which are not. So we'll deal first with the non-contested items. For item number... three, sorry. So item number 39A, 67 Morse Street. Do we have the agent or applicant here? Okay, so sorry, I'm just vetting the agenda right now. Okay, do we have any parties in concern? Okay, so there's two parties in concern, so we're gonna... They want a deferral. So has the agent, did you have an opportunity to speak to the parties requesting the deferral? Oh, you're requesting deferral. Okay, so first let's deal with the deferral then. So if we can have the two parties please come up. But sorry, sir, you can stay because we're talking to deferral right now. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Michael Vaughn, and I'm the solicitor for the applicant. And this involves a vacant sort of gap in the streetscape across from the Morse Street playground. And the proposal is to build a house there to fill the gap in.
Okay.
Now, this planning staff, I've just filed a report, and they have concerns about the consent application, not about using it for housing. So we need a deferral, and they support a deferral to try to work this out as to how this should work.
Okay, and how about if we can have the two people in interest of this application please come up and also come to Mike to speak in regards to deferral. So we're just talking about the deferral, not the application.
Sure.
So if you can please introduce yourself and your address.
Sure. My name is Neil Attenborough. I'm the owner of 61A, which is the property abutting to the south.
61A.
Morse, which is the property abutting to the south.
Okay.
It's the carriage house at the back, and we own the driveway adjacent to the proposed construction.
Okay, and then, so how do you feel about the deferral?
Well, it will give me time to, will it give me time to raise concerns?
So hopefully, yes. So hopefully the agent and as well as the owners of the property will organize a meeting with the neighbors in concern.
Sure.
And then hopefully there'll be an opportunity to amend the application and introduce some changes that will address your concerns.
Okay.
I mean, you also have the opportunity now, after we deal with this item, to go outside and also exchange contact information as well as to outline some concerns. So you can get started on that.
No problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
So also, would you like to speak as well in terms of the deferral, sir? Yeah.
Right.
And just also to have on public record that you showed up for today's hearing.
The name is Carlo Mora. This young lady knows me.
And
I own 69 Morse Street that abuts and is attached to 67 Morse Street.
And how do you feel about the deferral?
How long are we talking?
So it's 3 months or the first available hearing, or when you guys, when the agent and the owner are ready?
No, the deferral is fine, but I'll get into the merits of what I'm talking about at that time, right?
Okay, sounds good.
Or do you want to hear it now?
No, so we'll just deal with the deferral and then, yeah.
And you'll give me.
Okay. So if we can have the agent come up as well now. So panel members, do you have any question in regards to the deferral of the agent?
So Mr. Vaughn, do you believe planning staff are going to have some difference of opinion with respect to the employment land policies that they've quoted in their report and their application to the property in question?
I do not agree with planning staff, but both planning staff and my client agree that this is a vacant piece of land right across from an entrance to a children's playground in a totally residential street, and it should be used for housing. And the proposal is for a house with 4 bedrooms for kids. Now, the issue from the planning staff point of view is a legal issue, I think. They say that the creation of a lot amounts to a new residential use. The property, however, is official planned for residential, and it's used for residential. This just arose, so we need to work this out.
To sort of go back and forth about it yet?
Well, we have to resolve the legal issue, and then they don't seem to have a problem with with the proposal, if it's not on a lot, that is, if it's part of the existing house or as a condo or something, but we have to work that out.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so no more questions. We're in committee discussion or motion.
I just want to say I'm conflicted in terms of what's to gain by a deferral, because based on the planning report, it's creating a new lot in core employment areas, and I understand it's residential now and you're splitting it, but we are trying to protect those areas. Having said that, if there's an opportunity to come to some resolution, then I'm conflicted.
Yeah, I mean, given what a short timeline is always involved in these, it's a consent, it's a complex application. I would prefer to give it the opportunity.
Yeah, I agree, especially considering the report is dated November 22nd, so there really hasn't been much time for the agent, the owner, to respond to it. Okay, any other comments? Okay, no more comments, then need a motion.
Okay, through you, Madam Chair, I would move deferral of the application, including recirculation fees, with it coming back to committee in, I would say, 3 months or first available dates, but add to that having resolved, what the applicant thinks they can resolve with planning.
Okay, so a motion to defer has been moved by Ms. Oman, including the recirculation fees and the 3 months or first available date. Do we have a seconder? Ms. Hayes, all in favor? Okay, so the application has been deferred. Okay, so once again, we strongly advise you to step outside and exchange contact information, as well as outline the issues with the applications that the neighbors are having. Okay, so we'll proceed with vetting the next 2 items for the time slot. 576, 578, 580 Front Street West, and 25 and 27 Bathurst Street, as well as sister application for 39 Niagara Street and 229 Bathurst Street. Do we have the agent applicant here? Do we have any parties in interest? Okay. And then item number 41, 140 Gledhill Avenue. Do we have the agent applicant here? Do we have any parties in interest? Okay, so that item will be held. So we strongly advise for the agent to speak to the parties in interest of this application outside of the hearing room to resolve or address any outstanding issues or matters, okay? Okay, so we'll proceed with item number 40. So before you start, the committee has in front of us draft plan of survey, site plan, floor plan, elevations. We have the cover letter from the solicitor, Michael Fodrick. We have the C of A decisions affecting the subject property. We have the site-specific zoning bylaw. We have email correspondence from right-of-way control center dated November 14th. And then we also have staff report from development engineering received November 9th, as well as November 22nd. And then also another report from development, sorry, that is listed twice. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself.
Do you have that document? We should have said it.
We probably do, but we don't have the nice color version. So.
The color is going to be much easier to follow along, so I'm going to hand this out.
Thank you.
Perhaps if you can put one copy on the projector for the public record.
I handed out
Here,
my last
here.
one.
We are ready to share.
We'll share. You can have this one.
So, as you said, my name is Mike Fodder. So I'm a lawyer from McCarthy Tatro, and the applicant is a named company specific to the site, but it's really Minto that is the interested developer in these lands. It's a building at the northeast corner of Front and Bathurst, and it's almost complete. Actually, occupancy is expected to be sometime around April or so is what we expect. And it's been before this committee a number of times for various variances, as we iron out the details with staff. So you may remember the address from my appearances on those variances. This, though, is a consent, and it's only a consent, and it's to create 4 stratified parcels. And they are depicted on that stratified reference plan in 4 different colors. So blue would be a rental housing parcel. Pink is going to be a residential condominium parcel. Green is a below-grade commercial parking parcel, and yellow is a retail parcel. And just because my goal was to make things as complicated as I possibly could, it's not simply one consent to create 4 parcels. We had obtained a previous consent to kind of karate chop the property in 2 for financing purposes, which this committee approved. And so it's actually 2 lots becoming 4 lots. And it's not as if one of those lots is coming 2 and the other is becoming 2. The 4 lots are created out of both lots. So if it looks more complicated than you might expect, that's almost certainly the explanation. As I think I alluded to, there's no variances required. We have a site-specific zoning bylaw which says, regardless of any future consents or severances, the bylaw applies to the whole of the land, so no variances are triggered. And there was a November 8th letter from Development Engineering which proposed a number of conditions and concluded with, we'd like this to be deferred. But you see the November 22nd letter, which they subsequently issued after we had met with them. We met with them, being Development Engineering, City Solicitor, Leslie Forder. The planner was involved. We had a great meeting at Metro Hall where it was clear that Development Engineering just didn't understand what was going on well enough, and we walked them through with all our consultants in some detail over a number of hours, and it resulted in the November 22nd letter, which says, if subject to these conditions, we have no concern. And we obviously don't have any objection to those conditions being added. And I'll add that, we're asking for the consents to create easements, et cetera, associated with those parcels, because there are certain things which require an easement. But there are some types of easements that might be blanket in nature or might be subject to the exemption for consent in 50 sub 9 of the Planning Act. So if you were to look at the easements, you might see, oh, there's something missing, but it's because it's not that it's missing. It's not that we're not going to create the easements, it's just we don't require Planning Act consent to create those types of easements. So in summary, I would say that a plan of subdivision is clearly not necessary in our view. I mean, this was the contemplated division of the building all along. There's been no secret of that throughout our planning applications, and this is just the final time I have to come before you to ask for permission to create these lots.
Like vertical severances.
There is vertical severances involved, so each page represents a different height, elevate. I mean, you guys are familiar with strata reference plans, certainly, but as you'll see, the configuration of the lot changes by level, and if you get below grade, it's mostly the parking / condo parking, and if you get above grade, especially at grade, it's largely retail, as you would expect, et cetera. Yes.
And I know you're now talking about that, yes, there is below grade parking, because the staff report seems to talk a lot about parking. So I'm trying to differentiate in my mind the difference between the commercial parking and the public parking.
Well, that's a great question. I just turned one of the P levels, which will kind of illustrate that, again, each P level is different, but this is one of them. And as you'll see, the green is a commercial parking parcel, which is almost exclusively for commercial parking and whatever, accessory things come with that, storage of various maintenance equipment, et cetera. And the purple is for the parking, or blue, I should say, is for the rental housing in this case, and this is delineated. And although there will be easements to share, there's only one access, one driveway in, and if you were to get out, like you circle a parking garage, you'll be circling through perhaps both parcels, but you ultimately get out. So, we have the luxury of having a surplus number of spots that will have a commercial parking function. That's not to say they won't sometimes be used by residents, et cetera. But as I said, it's in keeping with the zoning bylaw, and planning staff are satisfied that it is, and we agree, obviously.
So we had 8 conditions outlined in November 22nd Development Engineering Report, and one condition speaks to municipal numbering application. So that's something that's included typically in the standard consent.
It is a standard consent condition, and I don't think this was meant to be to the exclusion of the standard consent conditions, which we have no, confirming taxes are paid, et cetera. I'm not sure if they threw that on here, but of course, you would throw that stuff on anyway.
So, so if we do include these conditions, we're just going to remove it from here, and then we're going to include it as part of the standard consent.
Sure, so, add a couple of more of the standard ones wouldn't be a problem at all.
Okay, sounds good. Panel members, do you have any other questions? Okay, no questions. We're in committee discussion or a motion? Okay, so, so you're including the development engineering November 22nd report condition?
Yeah.
So the 7 conditions, right?
7
And then the standard consent conditions.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And
as noted.
the legal conditions.
Okay. I'm not sure which.
They have certain legal.
The standard consent conditions, I think. Okay, Mr. Russell, so a motion to approve, including the outline condition, has been moved by Mr. Russell. Do we have a seconder? Okay, so Mr. Carlson, all in favor? So the consent condition has been granted.
Thank
Okay. That's for both applications, A and B.
And if I may just say, Sylvia Molaski is someone who we work with a lot and some very complicated files, and she's doing a fantastic job. And I just thought the committee should know that because it may not be aware how hard she works and how great she is under crunch time and that.
Sorry, who?
Sylvia
Oh,
Molaski.
Sylvia. She is amazing, but thank you so much.
We deal
for
with her
putting this on
several
public
times a
record.
week. We're on the phone to her and she's figuring it all out. And she's
I believe
right
she's
into the
blushing
mic-
right now.
Speak right into the microphone so that
Yeah.
she can replay that
Okay, all right.
for her manager
Yeah.
during her performance review.
I believe she's retiring, so maybe her.
That's nice of you to say.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's nice of you to say.
Okay, so we move forward, item 41, but I believe there's still discussions outside, so I guess we'll take a 5-minute break, maybe?
Those two people that they observing?
And you're just observing the hearing? Yep, okay. Oh, perfect.
No,
I can share my peanut butter
no,
cookies.
because then we just eat them all. We should just get fruit.
Yeah.
I think we've done well today, to be honest. I was.
It's caffeine. Caffeine and like, just wanted to get it done before it's like 7.
Somehow it happened backwards all the
Yeah.
In the morning.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, all the contested stuff was. It wasn't subtle.
Some of these severances, I was like, this was just,
Oh, the vertical severances? I don't understand how people can work for those lawyers. Like, lot, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I mean, remember, it's the surveyor who does all the work.
yeah.
And you were in that session with the convention a couple of years
Yeah,
ago.
on vertical severances,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, he's a big deal in the survey industry. You can't wrap your head around, unless you drew the plans, you're not.
And so in New York, they're actually selling the development rights for like vertical stories, and which is like you said, air rights, which is crazy. Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
I mean, New York's been doing it for about 80 years.
But New York, that's like the norm. I'm not sure. Okay, so we'll proceed since you are back. And the parties opposing this application, are they, oh, they're still talking outside?
Okay.
Okay, so we'll give you another 5 minutes. Or we'll give them another.
Well, I think Sienna technically sold them back when they were trying to demolish Union in the 70s.
Really?
That was the whole thing. We almost lost Union Station.
That's been going on forever.
Well, that project totally died, but that's why the era basically sold the rights. And it was going to be oriented the other way and like brought up onto the square. And they built twice the floor space.
So the applicant's here by himself? So your contested parties are doing what? Are they coming in, or are they just talking amongst themselves? Or?
If
Yeah,
We'll
we're
get
ready
them.
to go, so.
Yeah, sure. Sure. Just please make sure the parties contesting the application also have one as well. And then perhaps if you can put one on the projector for the public record. Okay, so we're starting with, or following with item number 41, 140 Gledhill Avenue. The committee has in front of us draft plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. We have email correspondence from Waterway Control Center dated November 12th, as well as, sorry, that's Bell Canada. We have a staff report from Development Engineering, received October 15th. And then we have staff report from Urban Forestry, received November 21st. And then we have 3 form letters in support from 93 and 97 King Edward Avenue, as well as 139 Gledhill Avenue. We have correspondence and concern from Toronto East York Community Preservation Panel. And then we have correspondence opposition from 143, 148, 142, 138, 143, and 137 Gledhill Avenue. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Leo Mastandrea. I'm the agent for the owners.
Okay, if you can give us a quick presentation of your proposal.
Yes, today we're here to sever the lot into 2 and construct 2 detached dwellings. I'd like to speak first in regards to the consent. We did a lot study. Based on that lot study, the orange are all the properties which are same size or less than our properties after severed. There's 29. Frontage, correct. There's 29 of them within the immediate vicinity. We're only shy approximately 6 inches. We need 6 meters, and we have 5.84. So I do believe that is minor in nature.
So these 29 properties, how many of those were created by severance? Or any of them?
There, some of them are severance, but most of them are built form.
And are those mostly like semis or?
No, most of them are detached.
Okay.
So in regards to my handout that I provided, the first 14 pages are all the properties on Gledhill, which have similar setbacks, heights, GFA. And there are many, and I think it's pretty consistent with the built form, our proposal. I'd like to speak to the setbacks. Also, there's many decisions there that have similar setbacks or less. In the old bylaw, it was 2 feet setback. In the new bylaw, it's 3 feet. The variance number 5, which has to do with the platform, I'd like to remove it from both applications, only because I feel that because our basement is considered our ground floor and our ground floor is considered our second floor, it does seem like a high number, so we do want to remove that from both applications.
Just for the record, so you're removing the area, the variance that deals with the area of the second-story
Platform.
platform.
Correct. And in speaking to the GFA, our actual GFA is approximately 56%, but because they are including the basement, it came to 80%, which also in my package, there are decisions which are 80 and plus. The variance regarding the parking space is also very minor and consistent, which also has been approved here at the committee. We did speak to planning staff, and they have no concerns. Engineering development also have no concerns. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll have the parties in interest of this application, please come up. One of you, if you can please introduce yourself and state your address. Whoever wants to go first, and then the other person will follow.
Hi, my name's David Grout. I live at 142 Gledhill, just north of the proposed development. I included almost all my concerns in a written letter, but I just wanted to state that it seems like the planning of this property, the only way that they are able to make it feasible in what they're planning to do, which is to build 2 detached homes, is to exceed height and to exceed the setbacks that are supposed to be allowed for the properties. And that is my main concern, is the setback. When I purchased my home in 2015, I could see that this lot was going to be developed at some point. It was an older house, it's quite a wide lot, and all I have to go on at that time are the bylaws. I was aware of the 3-foot setback that was supposed to be provided, and to not have that enforced causes harm to my enjoyment of my home. As I itemize in my letter, water management and loss of light, my home will now be basically eclipsed by this, the northern home 140B, for the entirety of the day. And that was one of the features that was most attractive to me about purchasing my home. So I'm in the position, I've never spoken before committee before, never been in one of these situations. What guarantees are there for homeowners who purchase a home if not these bylaws? I have no other guidance to say what's going to happen in the future. These are the minimum protections that I expected, and to see them possibly be lost doesn't seem right to me, especially when you're talking about severing a lot and trying to build 2 detached homes. They're providing space in between their 2 homes. That's space that they could use if they made these properties semis. Then we would buy back the space that we are losing on our sides, and I would support this proposal with no restrictions at that point. But I cannot at this point, because I feel like after the fact, after I've already invested, put down roots in this neighborhood, the things that I thought were going to be my protections are gone. So I hope that you will listen to these concerns from the people who are already there now, have already made homes there, and these things are being changed after the fact. Thank you. Yes. Right, but it's the not, no, I mean, there is a bylaw that's written, and in order for that to be altered, a decision has to be made to do so. I can't see that in the future. All I can see is what is here now, what is the most that is sort of promised to me that could possibly be. I understand that that's the whole purpose of this committee, is to make adjustments as necessary, but you're looking at a wide lot. They're making a lot of choices that are not necessary. It's not as though it is this proposal or nothing. There are 100 different things that they could do on this lot. Build one home, build a shorter home, build a narrower home, or build exactly as they want to now, the exact homes, but put them together and make them semi-detached homes, and then they are not treading on the promises that are made to their neighbors. And those decisions should not just be taken as, oh, well, that's a given that they're going to do this and they're going to do that and they're going to do that, and everybody else who's there has to accept the change. They can change. They're the ones who are proposing to do something different. I'm there already. What I have is there. Okay.
Okay.
That's a shame.
So in terms of the consultation, was there any consultation with you as a directly adjacent neighbor in regards to the proposed development as currently stands?
The first time I got any details about it was when I received the communication from the city. I had exchanged phone numbers with, I believe it's the builder, a man named Sal, earlier in the summer, and he told me that he was going to talk to me about things, and then I never heard anything again. And then we did speak in the hall 5 minutes ago, but that is the extent. And I guess they came to my door after the letters had gone out to see if we would support it. But in terms of actual discussion during the planning, there was none.
Okay, thank you.
And I was reachable.
Panel members, do you have any other questions?
So if the side yard was able to be maintained, is that your major concern?
I don't expect the side yard as it exists now to be maintained, because on their lot, it's a gravel driveway that's on that side. Oh, maintained to then I understand I'm not going to get all, that is my primary concern. So if that could be maintained, then I would not have an objection.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, if we can have next neighbor, please come out.
Hi, I'm Heather. I live at 138 Gledhill, which is directly south. I don't know where to begin because I got the letter and it was a bunch of minor variances, which in my life aren't minor at all. They're really major. My house was built about 1946. I've just found this out. I've spent the last 21 days or whatever we're given trying to research, trying to understand this. I know nothing about it. I've been there 16 years. I live alone. I've got 2 cats that are in there. So the house is old. It was built 46, no insulation, no waterproofing, nothing. The eaves troughs went into the ground. I've changed that. But the variance, the side variance to reduce it is huge for me, absolutely huge, because it's an old house. I'm worried about cracks in the foundation and to say nothing of loss of enjoyment. I'm old, I like quiet, I like space, I like sunlight. I'd be giving that up for a wall that'll be 4 feet. The present house is almost 4 meters from me now. There was a lot of mistakes in the literature that I got in numbers, and so it was hard to trust what was going on there. Pardon me? In the information, in the age of the house, for instance, that's there. They said it was 1958. That's when the owners moved in, but the house is over 100 years old, so it's been empty since the spring, and there's lots of rodents living in there, so there's a huge pest control item which needs to be addressed. I have written a letter. I'm sure that you have it, and there's just a lot of concerns. I just didn't know where to begin, so.
So you have concerns in regards to the side yard setbacks, and as well as the height of the house?
Oh, of course,
The
of
massing?
course.
Okay. Is there anything else that you have concerns with in terms of the actual variances?
The variances, they've withdrawn one. The other was parking. The street is really, we have people parking there from the next street. It's across from a children's park. So yeah, the extra car, even one, and the decreased city parking will probably make the value of my property in my estimation will be going down because of the proximity and the height that just.
So I have it written down here that driveways are quite common on that street and in the immediate neighborhood. How about internal garages? Because I don't seem to.
I don't, I'm 78. I don't even have a computer. I've been helped in this, trying to make sense of this by my neighbors and friends. I don't know statistics.
But just by your knowledge of walking and driving around the
Yeah,
neighborhood,
it's a huge percentage have no driveway or garage. I don't know what the percentage is. I think I've heard between 20 or 30, maybe more than that. Like, I'm living my life. I had hoped to be sewing during this last 3 weeks for grandchildren who live overseas. And my whole life has been spent trying to make sense of this, talking to people about what this all means, what effect it will have on me.
Okay, thank you very much. Unless panel members, do you have any other questions? No, thank you very much. Okay, so I'll have the agent come up and respond to issues such as the side yard setbacks, wall heights.
and angle our driveways, so you can have 3 spots, which currently, we took a photo this morning, and only 3 cars can fit there. Right now, currently, you have 1, 2, 3. And with this house, that black car lining up at the wall, we'll have our driveway, then you'll be able to put a car in the middle, and then you'll have the other driveway. So in reality, we're not losing any spots. We're maintaining exactly what's there currently.
And this is in file, like we have these.
No, I just did that once I read all the, to try to accommodate some of their issues. What we did is we moved the driveways closer to our property lines so that we could get that 3rd car in between to address the parking issue, because now there's 3 currently that you could provide, and we still maintain those 3 spots. So we will not be losing any spots whatsoever. As far as integral garages,
Not really a spot, because it's too close to the stop sign.
but that's where it is right now.
No, I'm just saying, but
I understand.
legally, you're not supposed to park that close to the stop.
But
these towns,
yeah, if you look,
that year of town.
as far as integral garages, do you see the handle with the photos that I show? These are all on Gledhill. There's about 10 of them that have integral garages. And actually, our neighbor beside us, that's his house right here. And that's very similar and actually higher than what we're asking. He's at 8.5 meters. We're going to 8.2 or 8.3, I believe. So, and he has an integral garage as well. And as far as setbacks are concerned, if we look at the existing survey, our neighbor to the north, to the south, has .46 on one side and .48 on the other side. We're providing .6 on both sides. And the built form currently, and I have photos to show this, that not many people have more than 2 feet. Here's a photo of predominantly what's existing as built form. So those houses barely have 2 feet between them, let alone 2 feet to their property line. So our 2 feet, .6 is consistent and actually is larger than most of the setbacks on that street.
So there will be no, to move this house, the house is slightly by 1 foot?
We tried during our design, but because of the foyer, the garage, it makes it very difficult, and it makes it really tiny space to get inside to the house or park your car.
What's the space in between the 2 proposed homes?
Our 2 proposed homes, we have 2 feet each.
So 4 feet in between the 2?
4 feet between and 2 on either ends, which is really consistent. If you look at all the decisions that are all within, even on Gledhill and surrounding area, there's many decisions that have .6 or less. I counted about 30 of them myself. So it's predominantly a built form condition that exists today. And there's lots of activity in this neighborhood. It's changing area.
Can you speak to how many of the existing integral garages would be considered a 3rd story?
Every one of those. Because when you have the garage, that's considered the ground floor, and then you have your first floor, your second floor, your second floor, your third floor. But in reality, they are only 2 stories.
In terms of the size of the lots, are there also undersized lots?
Well, I have this.
Frontage, I meant, sorry. Not frontage.
There's 29 lots that are smaller or similar to ours. In the immediate area, we're talking within a few houses.
With the same size home on them?
The same size home, I didn't do that analysis. I was just looking at frontages. For this lot study, it was just frontages. But we don't have a coverage. We don't have a coverage issue. We have a small GFA issue, and that's only because they're counting the basement. If they don't count the basement, we wouldn't have a GFA issue either. I do believe that this proposal does meet the 4 tests.
Okay, panel members, any other questions? So no more questions, so we're in committee. Discussion?
I hear the complaints of the neighbors, and I am somewhat sad, but the unfortunate thing here is that the application itself is not outside of what is the norm within the neighborhood. And with the parking, with the heights, with the side yard setbacks, it seems right in that area, that whole neighborhood is basically.
I would add that the lots that are being created are very close to the, what the minimum required frontage is for the area. They're only asking for 0.16.
Yeah.
In terms of the house at 142, the depth, I mean, it's very similar what's being proposed next door to them. I would, and I hear the concerns of the neighbors, particularly 138, because that is an older home. And lower home, but the area is in transition, and from my perspective, a lot of these variances are very minor, like the FSI is only 0.03. And the applicant has shown us a lot of examples in the area. I mean, it clearly is in transition, and it looks and feels different than what was there, but that is where things are going.
I mean, the way I would phrase it is that it's true that none of these variances would be in any way required. Were we looking at a single house or a semi? But the reality is, in context, the proposed dwellings are on the lower end of what we're seeing requested in this area.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, that's the way it is.
Also, it seems that detached home are
They are absolutely the norm.
in conformity than a semi-detached home on the streets particularly.
And I mean, as was suggested, to push them closer together, I mean, the setback requirement on the side is really minor.
Really, to push them closer together, it might be favorable for the neighbor, but
Create problems
it creates
for
problems, and it
those,
puts them farther from general conformance than the proposal does.
Yeah, for future, potential maintenance issues, you wouldn't be able to get in between the houses, so.
Okay, any other comments?
No.
Having said that, what I have said, I want to apologize with the neighbors, and I thank them for coming out, but I'm going to be moving for the approval of the amended application and the consent as it stands, in that I feel the amended applications have met the 4 tests of the Plan Act. Actually they are better for represents a betterment for the community. So
I would be seconding that if you're attaching forestry number 3 for B and C.
I will attach forestry number 2.
And there's also development engineering conditions.
Numbering, I think.
There's also one for revised draft reference plan. Is that something that's also typical of standard consent conditions?
Is it step 5 standard consent conditions?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, forestry is with.
Okay, they added attached to points 1 and 2, so.
Okay.
Okay.
So the amended application removes variance number 5 on the bylaw 569/2013 in regards to the second-story deck for both 41B and C. And the motion to approve the amended application includes the 5 standard consent conditions as well as forestry condition number 3. Okay, so it's been moved by Mr. Russell. Do we have a seconder? Ms. Carlson, all in favor?
I think it was me. Did you call me Ms.
Ms. Carlson again, sorry. Coleman, all in favor? The amended application has been approved. Thank you very much for coming out, and please make sure to fill out the decision request card just in case there is any appeals proceedings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Miss Edmond and Mr. Kyle and Mr. Omen.
The meeting, the hearing has been adjourned at 4:47.
Hey, Miss Kyleson and Miss